Welcome back to the home studio and welcome to episode 106 of the Stevie Richards Show. Very excited for this episode, as every other one, but this one is definitely something I want to talk about with James. We're going to talk about the recent Dark Side of the Ring Part 1 and Part 2, Jeff Jarrett and the battle for TNA. We never battled though, do we, my co-host, James Romero? What say you?
Do we not battle?
Actually,
not
we
majorly.
we actually battle. I'm going to call you. You always wanted to be a Bond villain, so I'm calling you Dr. No, because I'll be like, hey, you know what would be cool? And you're like, oh, no, before you even bring it out.
There have been times that's happened.
I'm the ultimate. Yeah, I'm such a hypocrite. You know what'd be cool? Don't do that in wrestling. But when it comes to YouTube and a production thing, it's all about, you know, it'd be cool.
Yeah, it is all, would this benefit us? How much time is it going to take? I think that's kind of, I am the accountant, am I not, of this in that sense?
You are. I think sometimes you want to hit me with it, and I would, as we say in the wrestling business, I would pop huge if you turn around to me, just like all the weeks in WWE, and you go, let's just get through this week. That's how I know we have become a wrestling show.
Yeah, I was going to say, we nearly got there this week. You actually text me and said, oh, let's just wing it for the Dark Side of the Ring, and we'll just figure it out. And it's like, no, we've got to do it properly. We've got to do it properly. So we've got so much to talk about. I've got all my notes that I made days ago.
That is not accurate, by the way. I got to push back on you. I did not say, let's just wing it. No, I said, can we have a conversation with loose notes?
That is what you said.
That is what.
But what I heard from it is, let's just wing it.
You are like, can you tell who the boss said? Well, what I heard was this, and I'm like, okay, I get it.
Well, anyway, we've copious notes have been made on it as well. Right, we're going to talk about Dark Side of the Ring. We need to get straight into this, so I promise I'm going to do the quick version of the intro this time. I've got a YouTube channel. Stevie and Chase Brogan are doing tech stuff together on their YouTube channel, which nobody's put the link on, damn it. Anyway, have we? In the YouTube?
I did a collaboration with him on the wrestling mod on the ECW. I forget with the House Party Remix or something. Now, I put a post up on YouTube and did the collab thing with him and accepted the collaboration link.
Oh, got you. Okay, then. So we've got that as well. So Stevie's doing like more stuff with Chase Brogan as well. If you want more tech-based stuff or game-based stuff as well, Stevie is on Cameo, 5 stars across the board. Once again, he will not jack up those prices, and the requests are coming in thick and fast as well. So if you want a cameo from Stevie Richards, the link is in the description of this and every other video. And of course, the Patreon as well, most important, the Stevie Richards Show Patreon, where you get the show before the show, you get the show notes, you get behind-the-scenes stuff, and most importantly, some might say you get the weekly watch-alongs as well. For next Monday, we have Dragon Lee and Javon Evans and some stuff on Chad Gable as well. What did we watch this past Monday, Stevie? Memory test?
Memory test. It wasn't a Korea one, was it? It was more recent. Oh, good Lord. You got me, brother.
Okay, I'm checking it. Why do we never ever remember?
I don't know. Well, I'm becoming you, James Romero, when you say, just like in a recent video, you go, I record it and I just walk away and I don't remember it. I have to remind you sometimes, hey, we talked about that like last week.
It was Mason Rook.
Mason Rook. Oh, yeah. That clip is definitely, people have opinions about that. I do want to say this, just because you talked about Chase with that. You're saying you don't have a lot of time, you're very busy, but people are clamoring, especially after the clip that just came out at the time of this recording. It was yesterday on Monday, where we talked. You're proud of the thumbnail and title because it really was curiosity-based. The PlayStation physical disc elimination video. People seem to respond pretty well to that and want a gaming channel with us.
Good, they can want that all they like. I'd love to do one as well. That's the thing. I get so excited. My friend has just picked up the remake of Black Flag as well, Assassin's Creed, and he's absolutely loving it as well. And then they were also arguing between each other whether the it's not the Ghost of Tsushima. What's the sequel to that that came out recently?
Good Lord, memory's bad already. While you're thinking of that, Assassin's Creed Black Flag, I think I saw there was a YouTube short just the other day where the developers knew that somebody was going to try this, and they basically had the two boats. They went over, did something basically, unalived everybody, do whatever, got back in the boat and swam over and destroyed the empty boat. And somehow they knew the people would do that if they had access to the boat and they could swim back and forth between two boats.
It was a Ghost of Yote. Yote? I don't know how to pronounce it. Maybe Tony Schiavone named it. She was thinking of the Yeti.
It's a strong style game, isn't it?
Yeah, it could well be. They don't like it as much as Ghost of Tsushima.
How many stars?
I
They do
can't remember what they were
systems
saying.
too. I'm just joking, but it's
Dude, I thought Ghost of Tsushima was so boring. Like, I just got no tolerance for anything games-wise anymore, apart from Trackmania and Warzone. That's all I can play now. Like, I just can't even tolerate any games anymore that don't have, like, those two play mechanics.
You have plenty of time to play video games. We've yet to play one game together. We've done 2 to 3.
Why are you saying I've got plenty of time? You know for a fact that you've got plenty of time because your wife tells you off if you don't play.
Well, we talked about that on the pre-show where I could do all these different things in the morning. We record the show, I work out, I'm planning stuff, I record a video for a fitness channel, and then I sit down and my wife goes, why don't you just play a game of Madden or do whatever? I'm like, I feel like I haven't done anything today. And that's why we have a future sponsor in the near future of this. Hopefully will help with that. I pretty much have everything wrong with me according to the setup wizard on that app.
I didn't realize I had an app as well, so I need to go through it. Also, is there anything else we need to mention apart from the Sony thing? I like that a lot of people responded to that because I like stepping out. We're not going to be like Kevin Nash, for example, and constantly step away from wrestling to talk about whatever it is. But I like the occasional sojourns we do away from wrestling for something else that really annoys us.
Well, I mean, we have interest outside of wrestling, and some would say those interests sometimes top wrestling in a lot of ways, and it's a good escape. And now, like I said in the opening of that clip, and please watch it if you get a chance, it's like the corporations in the world don't want anybody to enjoy anything anymore, or at least it's not for, it's a game. Now it's a segment of entertainment for the rich. It's a luxury thing. That was a lot of comments that it's a luxury. And I go, and WWE is just like that. And that was the one-to-one analogy about that because WWE isn't exclusive to that. But then again, they're doing the same exact things with everything, getting new fans, as Mark Shapiro would say.
Yeah, you know what we should have talked about, and we didn't, was the correlation with WWE Network. I sold all my DVDs on the basis that they were all on the network. And it just never occurred to me at the time that they would just stop hosting all those pay-per-views.
That is a direct analogy to what Sony did with Canal Studios and all these other things, and just deleting the library of people that bought those movies.
I mean, I never bought them. It was an over-the-top streaming service like Netflix. You explicitly never own that content.
Licensing just takes it away out of nowhere, and you can enjoy and rewatch it. Wrestling's a rewatchable product, and pay-per-views. How many old pay-per-views? If it comes up on YouTube, it's like Bread and Bulldog from SummerSlam '92. I'll watch it during the gym or a cardio or something. It's just
but I want comprehensive, man. The Vault's great and everything, but that's a future video that I've been meaning to do for ages. The Vault isn't serving. If I am the master, it's not serving me. Not enough. I love what the Vault should be, and what I want it to be, and what it is. I think are kind of like 3 completely separate things, but it's not. It's not good enough for me. I want the complete shows, and I want every show in order in an easy menu with chapters. Like at one point, the network really started getting it down, doing a really, really good job, and then they kind of fell apart when they went to Peacock and a little bit. But I want the full years of Superstars. I want the full years of Wrestling Challenge. I want the full years of Raw. Man, I want the full years of not only All-American Wrestling that people just forget exists, but the other show that nobody remembers is WWF Spotlight. I think it called Spotlight. Yeah,
I remember that. And
that was like the F show that no one remembers.
It used to be Capital Wrestling too, and they had some TV, didn't they? Like Capital in the 70s.
Oh, dude, no, Spotlight was until like 95.
No, I'm saying Capital Wrestling. There was a show, Capital Wrestling, I believe, way back, because that was the original when Howard Finkel was the first employee. Wasn't it Capital Wrestling or something?
That
Up
might have been
there,
the studio wrestling before, like in the 50s and 60s, would it not have been? And then I don't know
I
when it
think it
went to
bled
All
into the
Star and
70s. Yeah.
Championship.
I'm just saying, the point I was making, it wasn't that, oh, you just find it in your feed on YouTube, but I'm agreeing with you that saying that there is so much history in pro wrestling that has infinite replayability. That's what I mean. Like, you want to be able to say, especially for your job, like I want to go back and watch WrestleMania 6 and see when stadium WrestleManias were actually a very special thing. When you were in a stadium was a big deal. I want to see the Shea Stadium. I want to see Hogan and Andre. What's on YouTube? What was it, Puerto Rico, where they wrestled down there? There's a lot of stuff. You're right, but when it went to Peacock, it seemed like you couldn't even search for any. Everything was broken on Peacock. Plus,
It,
they censored a lot of stuff. I know something
yeah,
about
it
that.
changed for us as well. Like the layout of network changed. It wasn't Peacock, but it changed to Peacock-like as well. So they made it worse. By the way, there was never a show called Capital Wrestling. It was heavyweight wrestling from 56 to 71, and then that got replaced with All Star and Championship in 71. Then they also had WWF from the Madison Square Garden Network. Then he went to All American Wrestling is the slot on USA that Vince bought from Joe Blanchard for Southwest Wrestling in '83. And then where's Spotlight come from?
This is all interesting because it is a good precursor to this episode, because one of the struggles was Jerry Jarrett and Russo with trying to, these are eras that are colliding with that. So there is a little bit of context and a precursor to what we're going to talk about. We're not just jumping around. Well,
Yeah.
we're jumping around a little bit.
It was Wrestling Spotlight, not Spotlight Wrestling. I'm sorry, but yeah, like nobody remembers that and there's like no one's taped it either practically. And it did have the occasional, match, but like they had some weird hosts on that. Miss Elizabeth hosted it for ages.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I wasn't Spotlight a segment sometimes, maybe on prime time.
Full shows. Oh, dude, there was like on like some of them, like the magazine Spotlight segments and stuff. But no, like Spotlight.
That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah.
Spotlight went for 9 years, and no one remembers it practically.
There's your video for Listmania.
Dude, yeah, maybe. Just like the shows that no one, yeah.
Wrestling television shows.
I'm so sorry on the list, don't you worry.
Okay.
But like Spotlight was, you should try and find some of the full shows. There are some full shows out there, and it's wacky. Knowing that there's like a complete, like, straight version of primetime called Spotlight, which isn't quite the same as All American Wrestling, which in the early 90s was hosted like by Bobby Heenan and Mean Gene, and like tons of like fun segments and skits and stuff that were almost like, the VHSs. How much did you love Sean Mooney and co doing the Star Trek parody?
Oh, it's amazing. It is amazing. Yeah. Everything gives me an idea for a cold open. Everything we talk.
Yeah. Oh, I sent Stevie as well. So Adam Pearce posted on social media when he, like in '93, when he went to the Star Trek experience in Vegas, I guess. And I sent that to you, and it's like, did you do the same videotape deal?
No, I was just at the wedding. That's all I did. There was so much. I did have limited time, even though I was there. We were doing a live Raw. I think there was a couple of Raws we did there. I don't think I ever did a SmackDown in Vegas, but it was really only 2-3 times. So one time I was going to fly out there during the Christmas break from Christmas to New Year's is when I was wrestling that Heat taping with Jeff and ended up breaking my nose. So I had to go home. I still thought about with the gauze up my nose, flying cross country to Vegas. I don't think that would have been a good idea. I drove home from Penn State. That was the Chris Masters. I drove home from Penn State and went to Connecticut, and we're going through the mountains as I was driving. And when I returned it to the Hartford Hertz rental car return, dude, there was blood everywhere because the altitude kept making my nose bleed. And I got in there and it was all brown leather. And like I was doing this, and it took me. I got out, and I was like, it was like that when I rented it.
Yeah. Did they buy it?
No, they didn't buy it, but I cleaned it off after that.
That's fair.
Because I had blood on my shirt, I had blood on my face still. I'm walking in the convenience stores overnight and like getting food and drink. I looked like I just got into a brawl. Had tissues up my nose and everything. It was crazy.
Yeah, but if there's altitude, I mean, like, how much worse would it be on the Enterprise? Or does altitude not work because there's no atmosphere?
I'm talking about the flight to Vegas
Oh, I know.
from how bad
I'm
would it
I'm
be?
just imagining just if you climbed on the ship.
I know. I wasn't talking about what it was getting there. Once I
I
was there, I
know
don't
it
care
was.
what was happening.
I know it was. All
You're
right
making
then.
a space joke.
Right. Okay. We're moving on. Dark Side of the Ring. You liked the show.
I loved it. I enjoyed the show. No, this was definitely something I haven't watched every single Dark Side of the Ring episode, but there's certain ones where it's like you kind of have to be clued into stuff. And if you're not a wrestling fan, and sometimes if you're not up on a lot of stuff, it definitely, you got to get everything in 44 minutes. This is going to be a 3-part, right? Not total of 3. So you have a little bit more to pace it out over a series. What I noticed with this, I was trying to watch it as somebody not clued in, and a lot of things I wasn't clued into, a lot of things I wasn't aware of when I was there, and definitely not aware of previous to my 2 years in TNA. So it was like an education and peeled the curtain back, but I'm watching it kind of with, I guess, casual fan eyes, not hardcore wrestling fan or somebody that's clued into that. Because I found myself every time Jeff was on camera or somebody was talking about Jeff or TNA in general, even Jerry and even the Russo stuff, I was like, wow, I didn't know that. And isn't that what a documentary is supposed to do, is educate you and open up information and you didn't know? And it was such a great experience watching this. I feel like I said, I haven't watched all of them, but this to date, at least with the ones I watched, is the best episodes of Dark Side of the Ring that I've ever seen.
Oh, dude. Because of this, I found online the Ludwig Borger episode. That was great. Because you
I
could tell
haven't
they
seen that.
really put the effort into the research of that one as well. Because I had no idea a lot of him. I know that Jim Ross didn't like him and stuff. But that's one that you really need to watch. Right? What was the thing? What was the biggest revelation, I guess, for you?
Well, I guess there's a lot of big revelations. I mean, business wise, knowing the way it worked, what was going on. You hear the rumors about the struggles, especially between Jeff and Jerry, then Jerry and Russo, and them trying to carve out. I knew about the Jeff holding WWE up for money he was owed. I wasn't sure of the amount. It was always, anywhere from 100 to 300,000. And I did know that I did hear the rumor he went back and asked for more right then and there. I didn't know if that was true because, like, how that doesn't sound like, what would happen with Vince that he would let somebody do that. But probably the biggest and the most heart-wrenching part of it was obviously what Jeff was going through personally during all this stuff. Because I know Jeff to a degree, but not anywhere near that degree. So, like I said, I was educated on so many different levels and so many different ways on both of these. And now we haven't even watched the 3rd episode. That'll continue with our review next week.
We will talk about more about Jeff. We're going to talk about more about Dixie and Cornette and Russo and everything like that. This is just like more of an overview of the show itself. I mean, initial thoughts, who are your favorite and maybe even least favorite, if there were any, talking heads? Who do you think came off best?
I don't think anybody came off bad. I think Dixie not doing it obviously lends to the fact that she wouldn't, she wouldn't debate anything that any of these people said. And it seemed to be pretty uniform across the board. I personally was happy to see Awesome Kong have a good chunk of time to be interviewed and have a voice in this, especially when it came to the knockouts. Everybody always talks about the women's evolution and all these, and even, when I worked with Victoria and Trish, Jazz, all those people in WWF back at the time, WWE, but the knockouts were a huge draw. And I know Dutch agrees with that, and he's commented on that on many episodes of Storytime. And it was really good to see them getting their flowers and getting recognized. Of course, Awesome Kong also talked about the money situation, which I know a lot about as well.
We talked about this with Dutch's show, which is out today as we record this, but it'll be 2 days ago when this is actually released. He watched both of them, and I asked him to take notes as well. He was not massively happy that they completely erased his contribution. I say contribution. He completely created the Knockouts division, and Jeff didn't want to do it. And I'm sure Vince didn't want to do it. And I'm sure nobody wanted to do it. He said that Dixie didn't like the girls personally. Like, just didn't
Probably
seem
took
to get
up
on with
makeup
any of them.
time. They took up the makeup chair too much.
Yeah, most likely. But like I said, never got on with any of the women. And Dutch was the only one who believed in this. And he was just left alone with it. And then in the documentary, they say, essentially it was TNA created the Knockouts division, like completely erasing Dutch's, deal with it. And he was pretty unhappy about it. Or at least, it's one of those things where success has many fathers, but failure an orphan. Well, that was a success. And then it was we as a company did it, So he was a bit like, that's interesting.
That's a very weird kind of omission. And I know you said during your mini review of that on James Romero channel, check that out. You had said that, it was just maybe because Dutch was sick or something was going on, and he wasn't available, or else he would have been able to be interviewed. So it could be just an unfortunate type thing, but definitely go see Dutch's take on all that. I didn't know that. I assumed, I know by watching it, there were so many things and so many bits of information. Once again, I appreciate the overload of information, but yeah, I have to agree with you. That omission, because I didn't know when I was watching it that, oh, wait, that Dutch was completely responsible for it, and they didn't give him the credit. Of course, anywhere in corporate America or any company or even in the world, people are going to take credit after the fact, even though they may have been the people that resisted it all along.
Yes, that does work quite a lot. There's a couple of things that, as you say, this could have been at least twice as long, this documentary series, at least. So they're omitting quite a lot of things. One of the things they just kind of just like miss completely is they just seem to go from 2002 to 2005, and they barely mention, oh, we got on Spike. How? Like, it was like Foxnet, it was foxsports.net at one point. They had a show, then they went to Spike. I would love to have had a minute or two, because that was a huge moment in TNA's history, and they kind of just completely glossed over it.
I guess there might be hopefully a director's cut. There might be an extended version for YouTube or something. I think that would be to add, like you said, a few more minutes of that 3-year span. That was kind of important. And yeah, you're right. How did they get the Spike TV deal? How did that happen? Who was responsible for that? It's very good. I mean, I wasn't trying to split hairs on that and really, be OCD about it. I was sitting back trying to figure out if this is going to tell me anything that I already didn't know, or at least had heard through the locker room. And there was plenty of that information as well. Like you said, this would have been one. Would you dare say, I don't know how many episodes they have in a season, but this could be pretty darn close to having its own little mini season, at least, of this.
Yeah, I think definitely it should have done. I think it's like 9 episodes. So yeah, I think they could have stretched this out to 9 easily. What did you know and not know? And also, the other thing that they left out was something else with the pay-per-views. They completely left it out as far as the fake numbers they gave them,
Oh,
which I'll kind of fill in.
the 10 times less than it really was.
Yeah. And Dutch said the same thing. I don't know if it was like 58,000 or 80,000 or whatever they said, but the pay-per-view company was giving us numbers in the tens of thousands a week that we were ordering. So they Jeff and Jerry ended up spending all their money on more television equipment and probably bringing more people in, and then they found out afterwards that it was just either a complete mix-up, or they were being fed the wrong numbers on purpose and nobody seems to know. And it turned out to be, it was like 1/10 the amount. It was like 8,000.
Well, let me ask you this question: What's the chronological timeline in that? Because in part one, they talked about needing funding and going to Health South, and that whole scandal happened, and then they had to go and find Dixie. Was that where they had to go to Health South based off the fact that it was the first pay-per-view or the first couple they got the wrong numbers on, right?
Yeah, the way Dutch says it, that's what I'm figuring, is that they immediately were fed the wrong numbers, because it wouldn't make sense, because Dutch was there for the first couple of shows and then he left. He went back to Puerto Rico. But then in September of 2003, that's when he went back. So it wouldn't make sense in that time frame, over a year afterwards, to then all of a sudden be fed wrong numbers and they believe them, So I figure it's almost immediately. So they started overspending, and Jerry and Jeff have put their own money in, and Hell South have put their money in, and then that. I didn't really have much of an idea at all about the Hell South scandal, and I didn't even know who the original financiers were.
I knew that they were supported by or subsidized or they had money pipeline from Health South, but I wasn't aware of the scandal either. I thought it just they pulled out. They got, no way, that's it. Or wrestling has a very either they use the term money mark in part two for Dixie. You got to be a money mark or you're holding your breath when somebody looks at the line item and says, why are we paying for this? And then it's just gone in the snap of a finger, which this was, for obvious reasons. I like Jeff said when the person called him, it was like, was the guy's name David, I believe? I'm not sure. I forget the name. Whatever his name was. He's got more important things to deal with right now. I would say so. Understatement of the century.
I'm trying to find it. Was it like Richard? He had a very strange name. Richard Scrushy, it was.
Wow, that's just, that name.
It was excruciating early days, I'm sure, for TNA. I've really screwed up the formatting here of everything, but I've got a load of follow-ups. Was it you who wanted to pick up who named TNA TNA? And Russo has claimed it was him.
It's still a mystery. That was one thing that stood out to me where it was what I heard. It's what I heard from Vince. It's what I heard in the lie. There's different things that go around because obviously with the Jeff and Karen thing, obviously, the rumor mill for everything in wrestling. It's like a gossip central, but that was something right there where people had, well, who created it? Who did this? And Vince, I did the show with Russo and Ben for many years, well, over a decade. It was always Vince contending. He came up with it, TNA, the sexualized version, and Jeff in this said total nonstop action. I guess it's just everybody's going to agree to disagree in one way or another forever on this. Who would be the one that would be the tiebreaker that would say, okay, well, Vince came up with it or Jeff came up with it?
Would the tiebreaker be
Dutch? Maybe, I guess Dutch, but he wasn't there when they came up with the name. He wasn't present for that, was he? I don't think so.
No. They would have had to name it before they threw a show out there, and he was only there at the first day, I think. You said, I don't know if you just told this me. I don't think it was on an old show or anything, but you said that you quite liked the Asylum days and the old pay-per-views, the weekly pay-per-views. Did you get them all every week? How much did you see of them?
Yeah, it made me. This is kind of in my WWE kind of. There wasn't really a high point outside of 2000 and maybe a little bit with Victoria, but I was just struggling to know that every week could be my last week, just like any other company. But in WWE, I knew my time was limited at the time that TNA was doing the pay-per-views, even though they were it was 2002 when they started, right? With the weekly pay-per-views. I knew I was kind of figured in, but I was never going to go back where the right center was. I was just kind of treading water right around here. And also I was looking at that and saying, can I be a fan again? Because you get through this thing where you're so inside the bubble, you're so struggling to try to get booked and trying to get recognized that you don't fall completely out of love or your passion for the business goes away, but it becomes more like a job. So for me, when I saw TNA as something that I could sit back on Wednesday nights, pay $10 a week on my night off and watch that and maybe like fall back in love with the business, which it really did reignite my passion to at least try my best in WWE at the time, that I could say, okay, well, maybe if they do release me, which they eventually will release everybody, that TNA will notice that, hey, we can do something with this guy, bring him in, give him a new character. So he was exciting because also it was potentially, selfishly for the boys, another place to possibly work. It would be like, it's a Wednesday. Nobody's working on a Wednesday. You have your indie shots, if maybe on Thursday, more than likely Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So it's an open day, for anybody that's working the indie circuit.
And correct me if I'm wrong here, as a fan, with TNA when it first started coming out, and then when the Wrestling Channel came out in 2004, I probably ended up watching nearly all of them. They were very odd shows to me, because like Sports Entertainment Extreme, for example, was just what it was, that kind of thing. It was this weird kind of yin-yang show where it kind of didn't have an identity. or one solid identity, because some of it was like old school Southern wrestling kind of booking, sometimes with Jeff, and then you'd have Dusty Rhodes coming in sometimes, and other stuff like that. And then you'd have the old ECW guys turning up, like Shane Douglas and Raven or New Jack, or occasionally the Sandman or whatever. And I was thinking, what is this company trying to be? It just felt like all like the remnants of other companies shoved together, and they never really seem to have that kind of cohesive forward-thinking vision, I guess. A lot of it seemed to be like tribute wrestling for me in the first couple of years, and they just didn't have their own identity. I don't know where you feel about it. You obviously had the young guys as well, which was their identity, like your AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels, etc.
Well, when I look at that, and that's an excellent point, because we talk about a tale of two shows with WWE and identity crisis with wrestling promotions in general. I feel like when I watched that, and I told you I consumed it, I wanted to support the product too. $10 a week, $40 when WWE for one a month was charging about that much. So yeah, people probably, well, what's a single pay-per-view? I only subscribed to the stream. There was a time where pay-per-view companies, and if you want 1 minute over, 2 minutes over, the satellite or cable companies would be charging you heavy stuff. So you got to end that. There was no overrun on these pay-per-views, which is a PLE for anybody that's in a new era. But when I watched it, I was thinking to myself, without that, I'm more of a trained eye now, obviously as you get more experience, but I'm watching, I'm like, okay, it looks like they're throwing everything to see what sticks. It feels like they're trying to be ultimate variety show. Total nonstop action is just like maybe chaotic. But I thought what they were trying to do on the weekly pay-per-views was just get people to watch and hopefully get hooked, whether you're an ECW fan, a fan of old school, the ultimate variety show. And the chance was, though, especially if you're an old school Memphis wrestling fan, oh, this gives me something here. Oh, now you're giving me the ECW garbage wrestlers. Oh, now there's a little person in a trash can saying he's going to do something to his Johnson. I'm out. So you really
Let's not forget the Johnsons as well, the tag team.
I do. I know. Yeah, the Johnsons. Now, was Mike Sanders the manager for that? Were they SOL? Somebody who looked like Sanders was the manager who came out when I saw the B-roll on Dark Side. I don't know who that guy was. Here's the thing, though. What they were trying to do, in theory, was just get as many eyes on the product from as many demographics of wrestling fans that enjoyed different styles. The only problem was it didn't feel like there was a format that went along with that. Is that what you're saying? Let's just throw it. And there was freedom. There was freedom for the wrestlers to do a lot. So it just felt like the biggest strength was the out of control nature of it. But then maybe the biggest turnoff could be the out of control nature of it.
It was Mortimer Plumtree.
Oh, I remember Mort. Oh, I actually talked to that guy when Crash put me on the phone with him. He was incredibly funny. Mortimer, yeah. Because I love that name because it reminded me of Thurston Howell III from Gilligan's Island.
Yeah. So there you go.
But he looks a little bit like Sanders on first, like the quick glimpse of that.
It's funny. It's just like the old TNA. I mean, a lot of it's bloody awful. And some of it's good. It's just a complete hodgepodge of stuff going on the first couple of years.
I'll tell you what shined, though, from the very first pay-per-view, what shined was the X Division guys. You're talking about Low-Key, Jerry Lynn, AJ, Amazing Red. They had that multi-person match. If I'm leaving anybody out, I'm sorry. Even
Jerry Lynn?
Bringing in, I said Jerry Lynn.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. But even like the Battle Royal and the stuff to build up, I had Toby Keith being involved with Jeff off of that. It did have a big fight feel, and it had a mainstream appeal type.
Oh, did you see the Tennessee Titans there?
Yeah, that dude wanted Jeff Jarrett in the worst way, didn't he?
Dutch Thomas, like, man, they were drinking. Man, they got way too involved that time.
Nobody was stopping that guy for about 5 to 8 seconds. I was like, just clear the arena.
Where am I going to go here from that? Because the old shows, and then it gets own identity a little more as time goes on. Jerry Jarrett, did you ever meet Jerry?
I don't believe I've ever met Jerry Jarrett. I don't. Maybe, but no, I would not have. I would have remembered it because I probably would have had questions because I used to consider, I used to get wrestling gold VHS tapes, and obviously from the early to mid '80s they had volumes, and he was a big part of that. If not, wrestling, he was a big part of being an on-air promoter for that or matchmaker.
I'm going to go through a few different things before we talk about Jeff specifically. It goes to like the mid 2000s. Then TNA, they say we're bringing in more WWE stars, and the editing is so funny on this because they show Booker T, they show Rikishi. Why they brought in Rikishi, I don't know.
I didn't even know he was ever there.
Dude, he was there for like a little bit. I think he was like part of the Reverse Battle Royal or something, and he was in that.
You mean like the King of the Mountain thing?
No, the Reverse Battle Royal, where everyone had to pretend they couldn't get in the ring.
King of the Mountains is a reverse ladder match, isn't it?
Yeah, where you got to hang up the belt. And then they had the Reverse Battle Royal, where everybody had to get in the ring, and everyone had to pretend they couldn't get in the ring. It was terrible. Anyway. So the editing's really funny, because Scott D'Amore is saying, some WWE stars are assets, and it shows Christian Cage and Mick Foley. And then others just showed up.
Favorite part. This
is
Scott
Hall and Kevin Nash. And then it goes straight into more Nash clips. Jim Cornette says certain people paid to show up and lay on their ass as big. Yeah, the clip they show is Kevin Nash lying on a sofa. It was the funniest thing. I don't think everyone will just say the same anyway. It's like he got paid to show up and do nothing for the most part.
Well, paid vacation is how a lot of people looked at that as a stop before they go back, before Vince finds something for them. The one guy that didn't. And this is going to be in part 2 as we get to that point. Kurt Angle. They were trying to stop him. They were trying to get him to lay on the couch and relax. Kurt was not having any of that.
A few more things to make mention of. Because there were so many ex-WWE guys, the original TNA people are saying morale sunk because Dixie was paying those guys big money and completely ignoring the homegrown talent, who in a lot of cases were not only getting bigger reactions, but drawing comparable or better television ratings as well.
Yeah, we skimmed over that. I mean, obviously that's going to be a big part with Dixie being more involved and wanting, once she steps into the creative room or she says Jeff is not on the video game call anymore, I am. That would have been the line for me right there, the video game call. I would have been gone. You don't take that from me. But
hey, do you remember that Jeff had recently bought into Acclaim? Like a year ago or two.
Yes, I do remember. We covered that.
Well, I was going to say, did we cover that? And
yes, we did. We did cover that. Maybe we'll link in the description below or pin comment. But like that right there, let's not gloss over that. Do you want to dive deeper in that? Because this is where Awesome Kong, and like I said, I was so happy to see her be featured, get her thoughts. She was a big part of that. And when she was in WWE's Karma, I thought she was going to be an even bigger star than she was as Awesome Kong, which without Awesome Kong, the Knockouts division, I don't think would have been the Knockouts division, anywhere near it. But when she said that, and I sometimes, sometimes people say, you're crazy, it never happened. That's the whole thing about the conversation with Dixie, where I told her, where I was talking about money and trying to get a contract that kept getting kicked down the road a little bit just for a living wage. And I'm just giving my story, but it goes in line with Kong. I went up to her and I said, Dixie, and whatever. And this is where she brought out the old and broken down thing. And I looked behind me to my left and right, and behind me is Evie.
I told Dutch about that yesterday, and he actually sat there in silence, went, "What?" Even he couldn't believe. He couldn't believe it.
It was a way to get me, diffuse me from trying to push the subject about money, about a living wage. But I said to her, I go, do you know what I do when I leave here after pay-per-views, TV tapings, live TV, whatever it is? No, I don't. I work. I'm looking for a job right now. And she goes, oh, you're looking for a part-time job outside here? I go, no. This is the part-time job. I'm looking for a full-time job with benefits. And when Awesome Kong said that, I'm just like, sometimes I kind of exhale because I think, did that really happen? Am I crazy? No, it happened. And when somebody, I think to sum up that better than I ever could, Awesome Kong saying, the one young lady working in a bar, bartending or serving or being a waitress, whatever it might be, and the TVs are on, and said knockout is actually wrestling on television as she's serving a customer, and they go, "Hey, is that you on the TV up there?" "Yes." "Now, can I take your order?" That sums up TNA as far as the real workhorses of the company and how they were treated.
Yeah, do you know who that was?
Who wasn't?
ODB.
One of the most over acts in the company at the time.
And is it Taylor Wilde? I said Taryn Terrell. I messed it up on my video.
No,
but
Taylor
I think
Wilde had
Taylor
one
Wilde was in the
outside.
Sunglass
Yeah.
Hut.
Yeah, that was, I believe that was her. Taylor Wilde's her name, but
Yeah.
I think it was her. It's like everybody. I think
Dude,
Chris
Chris Harris.
Shelley
Chris
had
Harris
jobs
told me the same
outside.
thing. He had to leave TNA because they wouldn't pay him enough. And it's like, dude, like America's Most Wanted, one of the best tag teams we've got. And they're like, go away. We're not going to pay you anymore.
TNA is always going to TNA. And TNAing is the fact that they book according to budget, not according to creative direction. It must be incredibly frustrating for people like Dutch to be like, I have all this. And you say, well, Rob Van Dam's used up all his dates. How about this? Injure him out of nowhere and send him home until his next contract year or whatever's going on. And you're like, I just had 4 more months of using somebody that the fans here really do identify. And he's not just the ex-WWE guy laying on the couch. Rob is working the Rob Van Dam style. But let's send him home. It's crazy.
A couple more things. I did like, actually, just staying on that, I liked Awesome Kong's line saying, I could earn more money managing at McDonald's than working here. And then her thing, and Dutch will say the same thing, like until Hogan and Bischoff turned up, she'd had the highest ever segment in the history of TNA with Gail Kim. Ever. In like 6 or 7 years, whatever it was. I said, I understand paying Kurt Angle $1 million plus. He deserves it. He's the greatest in the history of the company. Some would say one of the greatest ever. Some would say the greatest wrestler that's ever lived in pro wrestling.
I would say that. And I'll also say that TNA needed to put up big money to get that recognition. You don't get a Kurt Angle being available like that, in his prime, that could still go, even with all the issues and everything. Kurt Angle, that's a once in a promotion's lifetime type thing that falls into your lap. You don't pass that up. You pay the $1 million. Now, Hogan, for Hogan to be the one to usurp an Awesome Kong as the highest rated segment in history, did he stay there though? The knockouts were drawing consistent ratings. They didn't peak. They were there while they were being legitimized as another. This is what I'm off, not off topic, but the overarching theme of this that I love that Jeff said, he literally, and I think Scott D'Amore basically quoted Jeff as saying this, it had those distinct divisions and categories within TNA. And on any given night, any given TV, any given pay-per-view, any one of those 4 divisions could main event. That's amazing. And I agree with that.
I liked Awesome Kong's line where she said, I'm this, that, and the other. Yeah, Kurt Angle's amazing and he deserves the money, but are you telling me I'm not worth 1/10 of that?
She's worth more than 1/10 of that. Yes.
Yeah, and that's what Dixie Carter told her, basically, is, yeah, you're not worth 1/10 of that. We'll get to Dixie. We'll get to Dixie in a minute, I assure you. But I want to talk about Jeff Jarrett first.
Don't let Dixie get to me.
Is what, sorry?
I said, don't let Dixie get to me.
Oh, good. Well, apparently she doesn't want to talk to anyone.
Me after all this.
Oh,
it's funny, after the Alden broken down thing, it was so funny because I just laugh about this because I was on Facebook and social media back then. This is years and years ago. The second that came out of the Alden broken down thing in the previous shoot interview, Dixie Carter sends me a friend request on Facebook. Huh? Dixie Carter starts liking every one of my posts and commenting, especially the fitness ones, telling me, oh, you were in such great shape. I'm not mad at you, Dixie.
Okay, I know we're going to do so much to talk about, but I wanted to get a bit of a deep dive on Jeff Jarrett, because it's the Jeff Jarrett and TNA Battle for TNA show. It's not a straight TNA, from beginning to end thing. It's more about, from the lens, from the slant of Jeff Jarrett's point of view, really. First time you met Jeff, I presume WWF, because you were 4 or 5 months crossover when you joined.
Yeah, we met there, but it was just hello, goodbye, not really bringing up anything. And yeah, Jeff and I, it's a weird relationship, and not anything bad or good. It's very much something where there's two parts to me when I think of Jeff Jarrett, and it's a lot of people in the business actually. The regret of never getting to work even just one match against Jeff, and that's part of the reason, in a way, I wanted to go to TNA for a good long time in WWE, especially when it was really ramping down or I was staying like off TV or at the bottom. I just felt like being a safe worker, being somebody that's been in there. He's going to hate this. I grew up watching Jeff Jarrett. I remember watching him in Memphis. Remember, was it Global Force Wrestling? And Memphis had the Texas-Tennessee war going back and forth on each other's TVs. I remember Jeff had won a title in Texas.
It wasn't his promotion, Global Force, like in the 2010s.
No. I'm talking about way back when.
Are we talking the Dallas
World
one?
Class, when the Texas promotion turned into GWF, I believe, and then they had
before then they were doubly right. Before then they went to WCWA, and then they became USWA with Memphis. And then they just died off.
But that was my first.
And I mean the promotion, not the wrestlers.
Outside of Wrestling Gold, and I think he was a referee for, like in Dark Side. I was like, oh, I think I had that somewhere on my Wrestling Gold VHS tapes, maybe. But my first exposure to Jeff as a professional wrestler was this guy that had a similar build to me at the time, and I was looking at that going, I want to be a pro wrestler. And that guy, like Sean, he identified with the way. And the fact that something about Jeff and its psychology, now that I look at it, poise, presence, and being second generation or even third, because his grandmother was a promoter, it really resonated with me. But I remember my first exposure was that Texas-Tennessee war, where they were going back for the promotion battle. And when I got to meet him, obviously I wanted to bring things up like I had Wrestling Gold. But back then, you do not ever lead on at all or hint that you're any kind of wrestling fan when you're in the business. You can't be a fan anymore. It's just crazy. I'm glad it's different. Then the Dr. Stevie thing was something I believe Jeff approved when Terry and myself were talking. Terry was talking to Abyss. This was after I got released, and then Jeff had approved it. I went up to Jeff my first night there was we did the vignettes, and then I showed up in Philadelphia at the cage match between Abyss and Matt Morgan, friend of the show. So when I did that, I thanked Jeff and when I was doing the vignettes, and I thanked Jeff again after that because I knew he was at the time the final approval, at least that's what I was told, to get me into TNA and become Dr. Stevie. So I was really grateful for the opportunity. And I told him I wasn't going to let him down. I was going to work hard. And I was like, anything you can do to help me. I need all the help I can get to get this character over. And then I never really talked to him again after that. Yeah.
Oh, did you do the whole Bluetooth earphone? Oh, I'm on the phone.
No, he never did that to me. As a matter of fact, he saw me like really kind of sore one time when I was there for a little bit. This is still during Dr. Stevie. And he brought me over to like some kind of chiropractor or massage person or whatever. And he started talking about supplements and inflammation. And he was incredibly educated on all that stuff. Jeff and I we're frenemies when it comes to the gym and cardio. We have I don't know about now after I haven't talked to him since that, but maybe not, there's a good reason. But we used to text each other pictures of cardio or the time when we were done. It was such a friendly little competition. I actually really do miss it. So maybe I shouldn't have done that.
We before we get off the WWF stuff, I mean, you saw it in Dark Side of the Ring. You were in the company at the time. What did you know, or what were the rumors at the time about Jeff, quote unquote, holding up Vince for more money?
That was the gist of it. That Jeff held Vince up for money. And it wasn't really a loud thing going across the entire locker rooms, but there was mention of it, especially leading up to that match. Not that he was, because that didn't happen until the night of the actual pay-per-view to get him in the ring to lose the Intercontinental title to China. I mean, I want to do that for the watch along, but we did the other thing, the Good Housekeeping match from that. It was an amazing match. And Jeff just made a very limited, maybe you can call her green in a way. China just looked incredible. He made her that night. And I had a new appreciation watching that match in a vacuum. Then hearing about he held Vince up for money. It was like the number I heard more than anything, and Jeff had no reason to lie in this thing, so it was corrected. I always heard $300,000 cashier's check. But Jeff said Vince just wrote a check and handed it to him with a smile on his face. But man, I would love, I would love to know what Vince was thinking in that moment, especially my more of a curiosity of the second time he went back and he goes, I'm going to need more money. Like the Vince that I know, it's like Jeff might not have left that room.
Well, that's what's interesting, because I've heard Jeff say it years ago on a podcast. I don't know if it was with Steve Austin or wherever it was. And he left out that second part completely. He only said, look, I didn't hold him up for money whatsoever. I figured that he owed me 3 months worth of cash. I think it's also not really said that the rumor is that Vince was going to, because his contract was obviously coming up, that Vince was going to pay him less. He was actually going to take $100,000 off of his contract. So Jeff said, well, and you'll know this, that these payments don't come through immediately. There's like 3 months of pay-per-view residuals and merchandise or whatever. So $100,000 should cover it. And then I'd never really heard the story where he walked around the arena and thought, you know what have I got to lose? And then marched back in there and said, I'm not doing the match until you double it. And that's where like the holdup comes from. And he kind of, for the most part, has omitted that version of it. So,
well, here's the thing. Jeff is absolutely right to think, and that's the previous version I heard, the first part about, and I would think the same thing. Well, after I leave, I have no leverage to get this money. And he's going to pay me 3 months later, whatever he feels like. I'm never getting this money back. And back then, if you're leaving WWF at the time and going to WCW, there's a good chance you've burned that bridge anyway. That I can see where Jeff's thinking, man, but Jeff's a risk taker. He's started TNA with his own money, his dad's money, but I didn't know he was that much of a risk taker to go back in the second time and say, I'm going to need more. Yeah, got to give him credit for that. I mean, that's we don't use those words here, but that's really brave. Another B word I would use.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton.
Yes.
And it kind of did work out for him, in a sense.
It did. It did, but you know what? What was the quote he said? He said, now it's like pure desperation. I'm paraphrasing it, but he knew he had no place to go, so he had to create a place to go and create something on his own.
What was your reaction? Because with the WWF Raw and Nitro simulcast, the final episode of Nitro ever, and there are a few names that Vince McMahon kept bringing up on that episode saying, you're fired. He might mention Goldberg and Booker T and whatnot, but there would seem to be two names where he genuinely meant it. Lex Luger and Jeff Jarrett. There's two people, and even in a before he does the whole thing in the middle of the ring, does that whole speech, there's a backstage vignette where he singles out Jarrett and says, we're going to spell his name G-O-O-N-N-E, gone. Gone.
Yeah.
Any reaction at the time that you remember to thinking, man, Jeff isn't coming back, or obviously, or did that stand out to you at the time? During
that day, when we kind of were clued in, I think we even knew at one point in the day, maybe after the 4 o'clock production meeting, that this is going to be a thing. This is going to be a simulcast. We definitely owns WCW, which you would think is just such a crazy, people now don't realize that, like, that was unheard of. How could that be? And obviously it had a lot to do with Ted Turner being ousted, the AOL merger with Time Warner, and then the Fusion Energy thing with Bischoff not going through. All these different things led to Vince buying it for an unbelievable deal with the intellectual property tape library, even the rings and the assets. I mean, he got everything, didn't he?
Dude, he got everything. He got all the IPs. I mean, apart from the TV time slots, but that's its own story. There were other suitors who were willing to pay more. He got it for much cheaper for reasons.
Oh, I can't wait for that List Mania episode or whatever you're going to
I can't wait for it either. I need to fully figure out the
do.
deal. But no, dude, like he had a spy in WCW to like run down that price. He's like Stu Snyder or somebody.
Oh, I know Stu. Is that who it was?
Yeah, I think he's one of the people who
Wow.
kind of ensured that Vince got it real cheap.
Wow. That's something else. You can't get, Vince, whatever wrestling paranoia, it works out sometimes, doesn't it? You get your little feelers and spies in there. I would say, and that also lends to the fact that he sent Hall Nash there to destroy WCW. Like that was a long game because they were pretty close to going out of business. But there was the rumblings, and like I said, wrestlers talk. And I didn't talk much. I was just listening, but those two names did come up. Like, what's going to happen? Is he going to bring, Lex back and just put him in polka dots or whatever? Is he going to do, is he going to fire them right off the bat, or is he going to bring them back and make them wish they were fired? That's the kind of thing. And Jeff was in there. And I remember we were, this was also the night with Sean's thing in Cleveland. It happened. I remember Hunter talked about they sent him home and all that stuff. There was a lot of stuff going on that night. So we were watching at the monitor, the box trust thing where the interviews happened. And I remember they were just like, Vince is in his locker room, in his dressing room, and that little square TV's there. And he goes, "Oh, what do we have here?" And I'm like, "Oh no." Like it was like every segment of that on that night, if you weren't out in the ring, was a curtain or a monitor sellout. Every bit of it.
You saw me like on my phone just writing down before. I was like, how have I never thought to do the Raw Nitro simulcast episode? So we'll do that in the future. I promise you, because if there's a ton of stories, we will do it on that one. A couple more things about Jeff before we move on. What were the WWE's guys' thoughts on Jeff and TNA? Because essentially he was the star of the promotion. He was the heavyweight champion. And as a fan watching, I'm like, here we go. Promoter's kid. Promoter puts the belt on himself. And I don't know how you feel about it, but Jeff, he was a 4-time champion in WCW in the span of 6 weeks. That is how ridiculous WCW got at that point with the belt switching. But him as a champion, he wasn't heavyweight championship material. Not at that time. There were just too many huge names out there for my thoughts. And then he's now got his own thing. He's now his own champion. And he's champion constantly in the first 3 years as well. Pretty much until Kurt Angle takes over the mantle. And even Jeff says, thank goodness Kurt could take over because the focus can be on him rather than me.
Yeah, he passed the baton was his quote. He finally passed the baton off to Kurt Angle. The way he explained it, and this was explained before because there was always the rumblings, the analogy of the McMahons being on TV, of Triple H as he's in the family carrying the title or being featured. They can't, well, now they're in this era, they are firing each other and getting each other kicked off boards and everything. But back then, you don't understand it because it's the old indie promoter putting the belt on himself, always in the main event. But as you understand the way Jeff put it, which is the way it was never put to me, but it was kind of understood, we have to do this because this is the most stable decision, the most stable option. Jeff is not going to leave. He's definitely not going to leave, go back to WWE or WWF for more money. He's there. So what I would say is maybe those multiple time WCW world title runs, even though they were short, could have hurt the case for that and had a little bit of Jeff Jarrett fatigue based off of that. What would have happened, just thinking in theory, if he never won that, but he won the NWA TNA title at the time? I think it would have been looked at a little bit differently if he broke through and became world champion rather than, here we go again, promoter's kid, promoter, belt on himself. But Jeff had to do that. The way he explained it, I completely understand. And of course, I think the boys looked at it this way. And I looked at it a little bit this way at the time. When he started becoming Superman and beating 18,000 wrestlers all at once and kicking out of every finish, that was a little bit too much. But in theory, the foundation of putting Jeff in that place until a $1 million a year, once in a generation find Kurt Angle comes into the company, Jeff built that up. If there was title reigns all over the place, and the other guy I think that never gets enough credit, and Jeff putting him over showed that Jeff would do good business, is AJ Styles. And I would even say putting Raven over, they didn't get along at all. Putting Raven over for the NWA title means Jeff's willing to do good business at the right time.
Yeah, Dutch was not a fan of Raven working with him because he was just someone who, I mean, you'll know this. I think would very basically be termed as difficult to work with, or too many ideas. Like, I don't want to do that. Why don't we do this
It's a
instead?
world title. Make it a tag.
Yeah, it's stuff like, yeah, you might as well make it a tag.
Yeah, I mean, is he on the level of low key? Because I know Dutch has commented about low key with that. To me,
he has, but Dutch also said with low key, it's like it's not entirely a bad thing. He just low key, so he understood, is that he wants to know every single thing about every single facet of every single match and like dissect it. And Dutch is just like, I've told you the finish, get out my face. You deal with it. Leave me alone.
Well, I can understand. You know what? For carrying too much is not a bad thing. You can always rule out that. Getting the wrestlers to get up off the couch and care about the company, make you smile with that one again. But I can understand that. The only thing that I can see, and I've been guilty of this as well, sometimes, or actually most times, if not every time, you have to defer and respect the creative team's decision to do said match or finish or have you in a spot. If Dutch Mantel says something, you might innocently enough say, hey, what if we did this or that? But it's more like a slight sometimes, or taken that way of like, this dude's got 50 years of wrestling experience. He knows. And if you frame it as a question, that's taken different. Do you see what I mean? Loki probably framed a lot more like questions and what's this and what's that, a little bit OCD, and I can appreciate that. Where Raven, in a way, is saying, I know better. That's kind of the Dutch say that's kind of you're butting heads to get an idea done, rather than Loki's looking for repeated clarification on things. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, no, with Raven, Dutch has said, man, he's annoying. Right, I'm going to stick with Jeff.
Tell us how you really feel, Dutch.
No, just that's how. How do you think Jeff came across in the show?
In Dark Side?
Yeah.
Oh, incredibly transparent, incredibly honest. And you can say something, because Jeff is absolutely, like Scott D'Amore said, a carny with a heart of gold. He is a salesperson. Like they say, you can sell the sunglasses right on you while you're wearing them on your face. He's that type of person. So if you dig too deep and you try to read between the lines and you try to be like hyper focused and aware with that knowledge, you might think, well, is Jeff just spinning a story? Is Jeff just doing, but I didn't get to that point at all. I thought it was amazing the way he was transparent. He wore his heart on his sleeve, especially when it came to the personal stuff. He really put his heart on his sleeve. And when it came to the business stuff, and I'm watching Jeff, and I'm like, because I tend to be, speak with my Philadelphia hands, and I tend to work up a sweat when I do these things, even though I'm very comfortable with this. But Jeff just exuded poise, presence. Hey, it's almost like Jeff Jarrett could narrate. He was narrating his own documentary with this and telling the story. And I thought he came off in an incredibly positive light. I had a new appreciation for information that I didn't know about Jeff. And it made me, in a way, after I watched those two parts, actually want to call him and say, man, I'm sorry. I didn't know you were going through all that stuff. I wish we could have talked a little bit more, or did what, I don't know what I could do to help, but, just get to know Jeff in that light a little bit more.
This is kind of, I mean, maybe the easiest or the hardest question, I don't know. But, you say he's a carny, he could sell the glasses off your own face, that kind of thing. Sell me this pencil, Is he a good guy?
I really don't know. I honestly don't know. And that's not me saying he's not a good guy or he is a good guy. I don't know Jeff well enough to say that. Did I have an intention or a desire to get to know the boss more? even though you're not allowed to call him boss according to Dixie Carter and this.
Mm.
But did I want to get to know him? Yeah, but you know what it was too? It was probably a little bit of intimidation because sometimes my excitement or my determination to like kind of like contribute could step on toes. But, you know, and people could take it the wrong way. And I didn't want to get heat. And this is a place I wanted to be at for a long time because I never thought I was ever going back to WWE. I never thought I'd be a fit for Ring of Honor. I didn't think I thought this was going to be my last stop in my career. And essentially it was.
Let's move on to Jeff, Kurt, and Karen. The kind of love triangle, the way they explained it wasn't really a love triangle in that sense. But before, I mean, the story starts out with the death of Jeff's wife and the mother of their 3 children, Jill. And that's how it ends episode 1. She had breast cancer in, I guess, around 1999 when Jeff was contemplating leaving the WWF at that time as well. And they say in the documentary that's kind of one of the catalysts for him to move on, I guess, as well. That and Owen Hart dying as well. And then the breast cancer would return in the mid-2000s. She dies the same day as Owen, 8 years removed in 2007, May 23rd. And from there, in Dark Side of the Ring. In fact, before we just get to that next bit, I mean, I presume you found it as moving as everybody else, that last segment.
Yeah. I'm a little bit holding back tears just thinking about if that was my wife, and I'm sure everybody out there who has a spouse or somebody they love, and just think that like you're building a life together, you have 3 daughters, and then all of a sudden you beat it once, but it comes back, and then man, and in that way, that's what I would say. Like the previous question, is he a good guy or not? I have to say, based off of what I've seen, just with the family stuff, your wife's gone. You moved the creative meetings to the home to be close and available to you for your wife. That would just put him right in the best category right there. And then you're looking at this tumultuous business and these ups and downs of the finances and funding and then creative stuff and never really, and he said he had to just push on and keep working. Jill going, he had to just go to work. He never had the chance to grieve over 2 losses. And you got to run a company and you got to be a single father for 3 daughters. Dude, I think who can even handle half that without the circumstances?
Yeah, I mean, he said that it took him basically getting clean afterwards because he was drinking too much.
Who
But that
can
will
who
come up
can
most
blame
likely in
him?
episode
Who
3.
can blame
Yeah.
him?
Yeah, he said he didn't really sit down and really consider it until like 2017, I guess, because he was so busy and kind of keeping himself busy, I guess, on purpose. From there, his wife passes away, of course. Everybody in the documentary is really caught up. Even Scott Steiner, he doesn't come across as the most emotional guy in that sense. The documentary in part 2 discusses Jeff talking with Karen about it once. They have a phone call, kind of leave it there. They get on well and everything. A few months pass. They have another phone call. They find they've got a lot in common. And then it goes from, I guess, friendship to relationship. And do you want to take it kind of the rest of the way with the documentary? Because it ends up being this big, long, sprawling thing when Kurt Angle comes into the company. Karen says that they're already pretty much broken up by this point. They're broken up and not divorced officially. But the company convinced Karen to stick with Kurt for a little bit longer, basically be his babysitter because he was struggling with pain pill addiction. It's another thing that the documentary doesn't mention is that how controversial that was for TNA to pick up Kurt Angle when he was in such a bad state at the time, but, less days on the road and all that kind of thing. And then from there, they make it out that Karen and Kurt aren't really an item. Then Jeff and Karen end up being an item somewhere maybe in 2008. And then all the guys and girls in the company seem to know. And then Dixie finds out last and she's very upset and all that. So, I mean, from what is there, what did you know? What did you understand? What was a kind of new revelation to you?
It was all new revelation to me because all I was trying to do, I said in the previous part of the show about just kind of keeping my own little space, being available, saying hello and goodbye to everybody, and doing the best job that I can. I didn't want to get involved in any of the drama. I didn't really hear much of people rumbling. Now, here's the thing, and I'm going to bring this up with Dixie as far as the Kevin Nash wine tasting sessions. You know, the ale house was where everybody used to go, and Dixie was one of those people. And I have to assume either the ale house or the DoubleTree bar, would be the places where people congregate, drink, socialize, and that would be where they would see Jeff and Karen together. I didn't go there except for the occasion where I picked my food up from the ale house, went right back to the room to play video games and just soundly defeat AJ Styles in every single football game. Let's not forget that. So it's a very important detail. But getting back to Kurt and Karen and Jeff, there was little bits of like, "Hey, did you hear about Jeff and Karen?" And when that would happen, I would usually already be standing and I would leave the trailer because I'm like, I'm just here to work. I don't want anybody coming up to me like a Steve Lombardi back in the day saying, "Hey, did you hear? Hey," no, it's Tony Gray. "Hey, did you hear? Did you hear Jeff Jarrett and or Karen, Jeff Jarrett and Kurt Angle are together?" I'd be like, "Oh my God." But Jeff Jarrett and Karen are together. And does Kurt, what do you think about that? And that's why I used to pull on my political lines. Like, everybody's got their thing, or I think it worked out best for both parties. And I used to just walk away. But I didn't want any of that, dude. I just wanted to work and try to earn a contract. And then one day I just hear, I think it was from Vince saying, Vince Russo said, Jeff is no longer with the company. And I feel like, if I'm not mistaken, was that Dixie Carter meeting like based off of that? The one where she sat everybody down? Was it right after that, or was there some time that passed?
That's what I was going to ask you, because I thought that happened before Hogan came in. But I presume after Jarrett left, and there was only a 3-month space between the two. I know we're forwarding a tiny bit, but I think Jeff goes in like September, around there of 2009, maybe earlier. And then immediately they fired Dutch because he's Jeff's guy.
I do
And then
remember
from there
that
they
too.
fire.
I do remember Dutch
Yeah.
was no longer there. Abyss had told me that Dutch is gone. And I'm like, oh, I go, what's going on? You assume power struggle, but you're not quite sure who's struggling with who and what's going on. Creatively, management, ownership, whatever it might be.
So it's like Dutch, Savio, Road Dogg go. They're all Jeff guys, of course, or Dutch guys, or between the two. And then Vince stays. Oh, Jim Cornette goes, of course, but he wasn't a writer. He was kind of more of an agent, on-screen talent. And then the next month, October, I guess, according to the documentary, Dixie cajoles Jeff into, "Hey, come with me to meet with Hogan and Eric. Eric Bischoff was there as well, but that wasn't announced, just with Hogan." And then kind of dangled the carrot over Jeff. We'll get to all this. This is kind of, we're going to stick with the love triangle kind of thing. But then, brings Jeff in for this one meet and then just sends him back home again as well, which is obviously a terrible thing to do. When did you get there? Like February of 2009?
February 2009. And then I was gone in January 2011.
Jeff was still there at that point, wasn't he? As you were saying beforehand. I mean, when did you realize that like him and Karen were together?
When did I realize?
Yeah.
I guess when it came out to everybody else publicly and it was allowed to kind of be a thing. Like I said, when people were witnessing, and I think they even had a party or something, I wasn't there for that, but the ale house, DoubleTree, maybe even going out to eat at IHOP, a lot of the writers and management would go there. I wasn't privy to that. I didn't have access, and I'm glad I didn't go. I don't want to see that. I just, like I said, put my nose down, get in the best shape I can, stay in that best shape, work hard, and hopefully I'll get noticed.
Right, so the rumors didn't reach you. Then, do you remember when the Bubba the Love Sponge thing happens, where someone called in and kind of blew up the entire story?
Oh, dude, no, I don't remember that. But like, once again, anytime, any kind of like, "Hey, did you hear about this?" I would exit, put my headphones on, look at my, I think I had like a Game Boy or something like that. I just shut it off because I just need to not get involved with any of this.
Any theories of who called in?
The voice sounded oddly familiar, but I'm not putting a name to it. Do you know?
I've got a theory.
What's the theory?
The last time I had a theory and spoke it, the damn thing came out because Chris used the wrong audio. But I'll tell you afterwards. Um, your reaction to Jeff going?
Well, selfishly, it was like, wow, that's a guy that like I wanted to work with, whatever. That wasn't the first thought in my mind, but it was really like it should have been all hands on deck. And it felt like we were losing like an asset. Like Jeff, like I said, I was told to me final approval. So Jeff being gone and then Dixie looking like she was becoming way more visible, like in certain elements backstage and everything. I was just like, and then obviously Dutch being gone, Savio being gone, Road Dogg being gone, Russo there, Cornette gone. I'm just like, this is this is chaotic. And I'm hoping that the product doesn't look like a mishmash of whatever when it finally gets on screen.
Was Karen? I don't know how much interaction with Karen, but I've heard cool and scary.
She can be pretty intense at times. I would just say hello and goodbye to her. She would spoke like in the documentary, she spoke her mind, didn't she?
Hmm?
So, but you know what? When she said about Jeff too, and this is something I've heard about Jeff, and then, we talked about maybe angry, drunk Jeff and stuff like that if he drinks, and I've heard rumors when he drinks, he can be very, very aggressive. But when she said, like literally, what was it? Not fatally positive, but he's positive and sees the good and pushes forward and he's motivated and inspired no matter what the situation. That's a Jeff Jarrett I have seen with that kind of stuff, and now you mix that with the charm and the smile and the selling glasses off your own face. That's Jeff, from what I know. I still hope to get
Uh,
to know the guy. I still hope someday to get to know the guy and learn some stuff about wrestling because he's incredibly, incredibly knowledgeable and talented.
what do you think of using Karen and Jeff on TV after the fact? Because this will be after the Hogan Bischoff era began. But what do you think of the idea of putting that on screen when Kurt Angle is one struggling and two your biggest star?
It's kind of one of those things like it's going to get a lot of attention. It's going to be that personal issue. Maybe now you have to remind me because I don't know if it exactly happened before or after that. But do you think they did that? I'm putting a question back to you. Do you think they did that based off of something like the Edge and Lita and Matt Hardy thing?
Well, there's been so many, you know, marriages that have
Yeah, Kevin
failed
Sullivan,
when
Chris
people are brought in.
Benoit,
Yeah,
and Nancy,
Mongo McMichael. I
Deborah.
mean,
Yeah.
there's a few that survive, like Booker T and Charmel and stuff. But often when they bring wrestlers and their wives in, it never seems to end well for
Or
anyone.
it's just whatever happens, they want to put the personal issues in the real life, and everybody kind of comes together and say, let's make some money and draw some ratings. They just say, let's do some business. And I have to say that it ended up being what I heard. I mean, I heard different rumors about it being scary that Kurt wanted to literally go after Jeff, but this whole documentary said that it was pretty much understood and already done, and Kurt was seeing other people. And it's very confusing about these two different, dramatically different versions of the story of what I heard after. And this is after the fact that, Kurt wanted to just go after Jeff. And I don't know where that came from, but that was a story for a while.
Why wasn't Kurt in the dog? Because it was missing Dutch, it was missing Kurt, it was obviously missing Dixie as well. But I would have loved to have had Kurt's.
You know,
Maybe he doesn't just want to talk about it.
maybe he doesn't. He's on with life. He has a new family and all that stuff. But you know what? It would have made it a lot more interesting if Kurt did. It would have got a fuller understanding of the story. And Kurt's been pretty open about this stuff in interviews, right? Over the years.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't think he goes like too in depth for a lot of it. Did you ever see Jeff and Kurt interact backstage? And you're like, oh, but nothing actually happened.
No, I've never seen them interact in a way where it was confrontational or nothing but business. But they have to know that they're in a public space and the people are around and they are leaders, even if they're not, like if Jeff's not the boss. Sorry, Dixie. I still like to call him boss, but they're still leaders in the locker room and leaders in the company, and they have to set an example of professionalism. That would be the way I think they would come to an agreement with that. But like I said, it's so different of it was long since over, and it was kind of a charade for everybody to see that Kurt and Karen were together, and there was months of buffer before Jeff and Karen got to know each other as friends, and then eventually got together, is way different than the urban legend than what I heard after the fact.
Let's move on to Jim Cornette and Vince Russo. If we get to Dixie Carter, great. If we don't, we'll save it for next week because there's a lot to say about Dixie, of course. First off, the Fire Russo chants, I think, are addressed for about 4 seconds. What are your thoughts on them?
Dutch gave better thoughts about that, and Vince did too. I was shocked to hear Vince's reaction to it on the document. It was pretty straightforward. But I think Dutch and Vince had a conversation about something with that chant. I mean, Dutch has probably told this. You already know. I can see it on your face, where he was like, "Yeah, you can take the credit for it, but buddy, when they're doing that, like you got to take that as well." Is that kind of the way he said it?
I remember an interview from ages ago where the accusation was that Russo was saying some of the stuff where there was the Fire Russo chants was actually coming from Dutch. And Dutch back in the day went, I won't say the word, but BS. Nope, they were Russos. So, like a barbed wire Christmas tree and the last rites match and stuff like that, I think, generally speaking.
What if,
Or
what
like,
if we got a
whenever there was
barbed
an
wire
incredibly
Christmas
convoluted
creature?
match.
What if we got a barbed wire Christmas creature?
Dude, that was Dustin Rhodes. When he was doing the Black Rain thing. Yeah.
Well, here's the
He
thing.
was the Christmas creature for a while.
I'm still very, very close to Russo, and I like Dutch, and I'm not going to get in the middle of that whole thing. But that's the contention of why people watch Dark Side of the Ring.
But Dutch and Russo get on just fine as well.
I know they do, isn't it? Not that Cornette and Russo, not so much, but Dutch and Russo can still be personal friends and everything. I think they still stay in touch to this day. So that's awesome.
So, okay, before we get to the Dark Side of the Ring proxy interactions, because they just kind of cut them together, they don't actually speak to each other. But many years ago, there was an email floating around that was made public at some point, I don't know where from, where Russo seemed to be trying to get Jim Cornette off television. And I'm not entirely saying he had a bad point, although I do really like Cornette as a performer and whatnot. But he said in the email to Dixie saying, basically, we need to get Jim Cornette off TV because he's, what are we? We old school wrestling. He went out there with a canary yellow jacket. Like, Cornette would say, I don't even own a canary yellow jacket. But Russo's like, we need to get him off TV and replace him with a younger, sexier female Tina Fey like GM or director of operations or any of that kind of thing. This made it out later, I think, quite a few years later, but did Russo ever complain about Cornette to you as far as an on-screen performer, or that he didn't fit, or that they should have got rid of all the old school elements like Jim?
No, that stuff was strictly really relegated to, I guess, creative meetings, one-on-ones, obvious political nature of talking to outside people like Dixie, maybe Jeff. No, people can say what they want about TNA. And obviously, when Hogan and Bischoff came in, it did change the dynamic of the company quite a bit, at least the morale of the people there. But when I looked at that, even with everything happening, Russo had never said, and I'm friends with Russo at this time, Russo had never said, I'm glad that SOB's gone. I'm glad Cornette's gone. I never want to see a canary yellow jacket again in my life. Yeah, I know. But he never did that. Everybody kept these personal differences, at least for the most part, to themselves. It was, TNA was a very fun atmosphere. It was relaxed. It didn't have the heavy atmosphere pre-Hogan that WWE did, but it still maintained some air of professionalism. And dare I say, it felt more like TNA outside of some people, like they pointed out the ex-WWE guys. It felt like a team atmosphere. It felt as close to ECW that I could think of at that time.
You know what's funny is that you say that as a wrestler, but anyone who seems to have worked in the office
Oh
would
yeah,
have
it's
said the complete
different. No,
opposite.
that's it's complete.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because Dutch said it's like I hated every single week there because one, I never knew if I was going to be fired or not the next week. Said he was always uneasy. He never had job security there, and two, it was just a constant battle. And also, there were too many cooks in the kitchen. The hierarchy was all wrong as far as who would go to who, for various issues. So as far as like the people who made the decisions, pretty much all of them said it was a disaster. Jerry Jarrett would say the same thing.
Well, I'm sure glad I didn't have my intention to contribute more because I probably would have been right there. Here's the thing with that though. We're talking about my time in TNA, 2009 to 2011, the fabulous 2-year era, not quite the fabulous 4 months of WCW, but I was probably still in a honeymoon phase in that first year or so, trying to put my best foot forward. I had a whole crop of wrestlers that I never wrestled before that I could do some really great stuff with. DCI, I probably had rose-colored glasses on compared to a lot of people that have been really toiling there, like the Awesome Kongs, and seeing that there's no advancement here monetarily, push-wise, and then you start seeing people walk by that you know are making high six, low sevens, low seven figures a year, and you're like, well, there goes another 750, there goes another million, and I'm not going to get. We were in different parts. You know what I mean? They already knew everything that went on. I was just like a babe in the woods, kind of looking at things idealistically.
Right after Dutch is fired because he's Jeff's closest ally, so we're talking the autumn of 2009, Jim Cornette shakes hands with Vince Russo and says that they need to work together for the betterment of the company. And then next thing he knows, Jim Cornette is immediately fired. And he contends, or at least jokes, that there was a 3-year rib on him just to get him to shake hands with Vince Russo. And as soon as he shook hands with Vince Russo, he was fired. There was that as well. Under Russo's solo creative reign, this is what Dealer Brown says. In 2 hours of TNA programming, about 5 minutes of it would be actually dedicated to wrestling. This is between the September to January, before Hogan and Eric Bischoff would take over era. Is that how you remember the TNA shows when it was just Vince Russo doing the creative at that point?
No, I don't remember it being that way. I mean, obviously, it was not wrestling match heavy. And you got to think I was trying to establish a character too. So that fell in with Vince and the way he wrote the Dr. Stevie vignettes and the therapy sessions and other things like that, the cross the line cam where I kidnapped blood. There were all these elements, but to me, that, at least in when I was there, that was great to build myself up to actually have a match and put Abyss over and then get rolling with a mix of those things. So I wasn't quite sure. That's like, I guess that's like the entertainment version of TKO with ads on Raw and SmackDown, right? Like 5 minutes of actual WWE wrestling, but then ads. But no, I mean, listen, this is what I'm saying. If I was there 5, 6 years and witnessed all this different instability with that, then I'd probably feel a little bit more the way that most wrestlers feel that were there quite a bit longer than me. But I didn't think, dude, I wrestled more matches, I think, in TNA than WWE during my last, however many months or a year there. So I felt like I was wrestling plenty. Also, we had Explosion and other things that had matches that weren't obviously part of Impact. But yeah, I think we were leaning way too heavily as time went on, especially with Hogan coming in, into being too much like WWE and being too much entertainment and not in it. We didn't have the right mix of pro wrestling with the entertainment. Never could get that down.
Of course, Cornette would say he was frustrated with all the ridiculousness Russo would write, and Russo would say that he thinks Cornette still doesn't understand it's a TV show and not a house show in Kentucky in the 1970s, which is pretty much a quote from both of them. Cornette says he was fired for not being behind Russo's creative vision. Then he made a threat, a terroristic threat, as TNA saw it, on Vince Russo's life. Russo actually reads out the email Jim sent to Terry Taylor, I believe that was it, saying, quote, "If I could kill Vince Russo and get away with it, I would kill him." Russo is still aghast, and Cornette was reported to the FBI.
There was also a voicemail that Cornette left on Russo's answering machine too.
Was it?
This is what I heard. I didn't even ask Russo about it, but I think he had talked about he had threatened him and his family. I'm just going off second, third hand information on that. Russo and I don't ask him questions like you're asking me questions. We talk about everything else. I help him with his Roadcaster Pro 2. He asked me fitness and diet questions. We try to talk about everything but wrestling. So when you're saying, well, you're so close to Vince, but you guys never dived deep into that, I chose not to, and I'm sure Vince chose not to. Yeah, but that email, yeah, that was like Cornette has said so many times that he wanted to do this to Vince. If ever got him in a room, if ever saw, am I off base with this? He's
No, I
quoted,
still think probably to this day, yeah.
yeah, he's quoted many. I think there's a Dark Side of the Ring where they ended one of the episodes with both of them going back and forth, and Cornette said it again, or something to that effect.
Yeah, it might have been the Survivor Series one.
The
or
Montreal
something.
screw job,
it
I
was
think,
something.
right?
Yeah. Russo remains on the creative. I think Ed Ferrara comes in briefly as well. I don't know if you remember Ed being
Yeah,
there.
Ed, I remember that. Actually, Ed and Vince, I met Ed when he and Vince produced the Blonde Bitch Project. That was the first time I
Yes,
met Ed.
of course. Yeah, they both left at the same time, didn't they, from the WWF
Yes.
to WCW. Very briefly, did Ed... do you know what Ed did? Was he just basically Vince's kind of subordinate once again, to help out?
Yeah, but Ed doesn't get enough credit for he was a TV writer. Ed had a lot of talent. Ed could write, and
Is it Duckman or something?
What's that?
Duckman.
I think
What
so.
did he write for?
I don't know the exact, but he wrote a couple things for television series, and I think he wrote maybe a movie. But when you talk to Ed, and this was the thing with Russo and Ed, from what I seen in my short time with Vince, because they left right after I got to WWE. So good rib on me, Vince, the guy who I like really pitched at me hard, ends up leaving like a few weeks after I got to the company. But they would ask Vince the right questions, like all together. They called Vince McMahon the filter, but according to Ed and Vince, and this is uniform, they would really challenge Vince McMahon, and then Vince would challenge them, and it'd be good. But Ed doesn't get enough credit for being a really, really competent writer. They did call him Vince Russo's lackey because they were always together, and Vince was the head writer. So he gets, it's kind of like Maven and me. I'm always going to be number 2, and I'm fine with that. Then he can get all the requests for new video platforms and all that stuff.
Did he?
Oh, yeah.
Or is that just an example?
That's an example, yeah, but...
Oh, okay.
A real example.
Russo remains... Okay, right, okay.
Yeah, check your email, James.
Okay, I'll check the email. Russo remains on creative into the Hogan Bischoff era for quite a few years. We'll talk about that another time, but very briefly. Why did Dixie love Vince Russo more than Jeff or Dutch? Well, I can kind of understand because her and Jeff had an issue and Dutch was, But she would stick with Russo for years, even after he had to be fired, I guess, and the network didn't like him. But then when the network found out that he was still working there because he sent that email to Mike Johnson instead of Mike TNA, that eventually I think was the catalyst for TNA leaving Spike. But why would Dixie risk so much to keep Vince on the staff with TNA, even secretively, for all those years, even through the Hogan Bischoff era? And they hated Russo.
Yeah, I mean, there was the Hogan Bischoff era. We'll talk about that, obviously, with Hogan and Russo, Bischoff and Russo. I would say this is just my guess, because it really rose my antennas, and it was like really waved the flag when I forget who it was that said it. Oh, it was Jeff. Jeff had said Vince came to him with an idea, and it was probably not on par or on brand what Vince would usually pitch. Because remember, Jeff said, well, why would you say that? Why would you pitch that? And he was like, well, that's what Dixie wants. I think it was just based on the fact that Vince would use Dixie's ideas, and it came down to her ego. Did you kind of get that idea? And Jeff would challenge Dixie and say, you don't know enough, right? Or at least infer that. And Dixie had her ego bruised by Jeff, and maybe Vince basically fed Dixie's ego to an extent, which you have to do as a writer with a promoter.
Yeah, the way Dutch says it is that wrestlers started realizing to get what they wanted, they go straight to Dixie rather than go to Vince or Dutch or Jeff. because Dixie was far more receptive, once again, far more easily to be manipulated if you were charming enough, I guess, and therefore more likely to get your ideas or changes implemented if you went directly to her.
Yeah, you just got to pick the right, year and brand of wine and you're good to go, according to what I know and others. I'm glad that it's not an urban legend because people were talking about that for so many years about you used to call it the wine tasting. It's just, I,
There are more urban legends out there about Dixie that were not touched on Dark Side of the Ring, and we're not going to
yes,
mention them
there
here,
are.
but there are an
Yes,
awful
there
lot out there.
absolutely are.
So, Stevie, we're going to leave Dark Side of the Ring there. We're going to pick up again next week when it's the Hogan and Bischoff episode that's been aired. We'll also need to talk about Dixie herself. How could we not? But for now, we need to go to WWE Raw this past Monday, and it was Io Sky versus Roxanne Perez. And this is the post-match beatdown featuring Liv Morgan giving Io Sky a belt shot. It's kind of obvious what went wrong, but kind of how could it have been done less dangerously and less bruising to poor Io Sky there, Stevie?
Yes, she sure hit her with the belt. And we're about to see that in a second. How do you avoid getting injured, getting a hematoma, getting completely busted open by a championship belt? You don't get hit with the championship belt. It has so many ridges, so many design functions to it. Even the big WWE logo it's just the old ECW tag titles. I thought they weighed like 35 pounds. They were so heavy, but they also had an eagle that had this ridge at the top, and it would always just scrape, bust people over, tear their, the top of their heads open. Because sometimes you know the belt's coming. It's almost like you want to be Barney Rubble. You put the top of your head down. Io Sky just said, hit me right in the face with as hard as you can. And we're about to see this. I will say this too. I'm going to slow this down. This right here is great. She's not just being held to wait for the belt shot. She decided to fight. It's like up kicking a little bit. You don't do it too much, but you're going to show no matter what. I know you're hitting me with the belt. So I'm going to try to fight and shut it down and get loose and do all these different things. But Liv went, I'm going to give you the pimp slap. She back. Did you think that when you saw it? She just went, boom, like a reverse chop to the throat, right to the carotid artery, setting her up. She's numbing her head for the belt shot. So, but here it comes. So we're going to back it up. Now, I will say this too. The way she's holding it, sometimes the strap can come up and clip you one way or the other. So you usually would fold it up flat and hold and grip the belt with your hand folded here and here. You know what I mean? To keep any of the side plates or anything like that hitting them. But I'm going to go in slow motion here. Yeah, she hit her with the belt. She even tried to put her hand up and Liv went, I can get underneath that hand. Don't worry about that. Is that the thumbnail right there? Is that it? Right there. I mean, what do you say? I mean, it's pretty straightforward. This could be the shortest what went wrong segment in history, but that pretty much tells the story. And then you see the photo, which Chris is possibly, if he feels like it's going to be rolled in, people still love when he doesn't do it. But she got caught. And then immediately when she went to the ground, dude, she had it all. She already had swelling happening. Did you see that already swelling happening and a little bit of a gash with that? So to get the hematoma based off of that, you're actually lucky that she didn't get her head torn open. You tried to put your hand up, and I would be the same way, but Liv went, I'm going to slide right underneath that and hit you. I think even Roxanne Perez was like, oh my goodness, even though she's blurred out, you really hit her. But you see holding the belt like this is fine in this, but if you fold it up and grip it with both your hands around the centerpiece with either of these folded up, you're still going to get hit in the face with the belt as hard as possible. But what can you do? I don't know how I can stretch this to 8 minutes.
No, don't worry about it. You can't. So who was the best at throwing a belt shot then? and making it look good, because I think anyone can whack anybody else over the head with anything. But
Oh,
who used to make him look good?
I'm trying to think. There was somebody used to jump in the air and hit some. There was somebody that hit Rock in the head with a belt, and they jumped across the ring and did it. Was it Ken Shamrock or was it? Could it have been Hunter? There was somebody that jumped in midair, and that was like the best belt shot. And Rocky, like, or whoever it was, like when they take, you take the Undertaker's clothesline, you jump up to meet it. They jumped up to meet the belt to obviously not let somebody just swing it in full force. But no, I can't. I mean, has any belt shot really stood out to you as being,
Yeah.
who's that?
Yeah, amazing. When Vince McMahon was supposed to be hitting Steve Austin, Gerald Briscoe was holding Steve. I think this is right. Steve Austin is like May of 98 or something. And Vince missed Steve, hit Jerry so hard I think he knocked him out on live TV.
He missed him with the belt?
Oh, yeah, he was meant to miss Steve Austin, but he sure didn't miss Jerry Briscoe. He hit him so hard he wiped him out for real.
And Vince can't work. Vince is an absolute clod. He's a shooter. Nothing is, and he takes it too. I remember Shawn Michaels with that, was it WrestleMania 22 where the Muscle and Fitness cover, he hit him over the head with it and he's doing his pose. But Vince, hands behind the head. I know his hands weren't here. The ladder, the point of the ladder went right there. Kind of like when, who did it? Mikey Whipwreck, the Sandman on the opening of the ECW TV show. Vince just got completely just gashed open with that ladder. And I remember the Attitude Era, people were getting hit with the belt so hard when I was watching, even when I was with the company. I can't think of anybody that would throw a belt shot that would be like smooth. There's no fake belt shot when someone's taking it. You're either, and when you try to skim across the head and not just like hit them full force, then you have run the risk of just busting somebody open from, the top to the back.
The worst one I was told as a description, so it was by Dr. D. Dave Schultz. Sorry, it's another Dutch story. He was teaming with, in Tennessee somewhere, I guess, or Memphis territory, or wherever it was. Him and Dr. D were teaming up. Fan from the audience tried to run. Drunken guy ran in. Dr. D smashed his head in with a belt that had the embossed eagle coming out of it. We got comments on that video, I believe, saying, from more than one person claiming that they knew the guy that happened to, and said that he ended up with like neurological damage for the rest of his life.
Was that in the Dark Side of the Ring with Dr. D?
No, I don't think so. Maybe I didn't see that one.
I remember him beating up a fan, and the fan having some long-term issues, and that might be the one, or it might be another one.
Maybe it was.
Yeah, that's no joke. I mean, that's where I got a question on Cameo just the other day, where they were asking about TV violence and something that would be a felony. It's Rikishi hitting Austin with the car, doing it for The Rock, me being tased, me tasing this, me lighting his leg on fire with the thing. It's such a level of being desensitive. Here I go again with refusal. I say refusal, right? Finally, Chris edited that out. But you do not see violence in the video game era, let's call it. You don't see violence for what it is, but that's a reality. I always say how wrestling people live a very charmed life. The way Io Sky just got hit could lead to neurological damage. Like, just because she's a wrestler doesn't mean she can't get hurt just like a fan. I don't think most people realize that.
Just before we get off the belt thing, what's the best hand position for a weapon shot of that type? Is it like two hands up? Is it... Because I'm presuming when you're hitting it, obviously you're kind of like glancing off the hand and then, to the side kind of thing. But what's the best hand position?
Well, the best hand position in the block, as you can see from Io Sky, doesn't always necessarily work out. The safest way to throw a belt shot that I think would still get the ooh, and if you're a heel means even more, is hitting someone in the upper back, lower neck region from behind and let them take a face bump. That way you can lay it in like a clothesline, push them down with it. I always was a big fan too, is if you're going to do that and they're on their stomach, guess what you do with the belt then? You whip them with the belt, not with the metal side, with the leather side. Now you're whipping them with the belt, and it makes such a harder thud than a regular belt that you wear that people go, "Ooh, man," and it leaves the mark of the belt on your back. I'd rather take that than like potentially being like really, really busted wide open. And I have no doubt Io Sky has a concussion, right? Will she even make SummerSlam?
Oh, I don't know. She's got a knot on her head, a black eye. Doesn't mean a concussion necessarily.
Dude.
She would have had a bell rung, but I mean,
Bell rung is a concussion in this.
okay, but in this day and age, yeah. But no, she'll be there, I'm sure. Nothing's been released since on that version. On to the next what went wrong. And yes, I'm sorry, it's not wrestling. It is MMA because it was the biggest story of the weekend. Conor McGregor went out there, UFC 329, and immediately destroyed his own knee. There's a lot to say about this. I was telling, like, I've got some casual friends who like mixed martial arts, and they were saying, I can't wait for Conor to come back. And I was like, boy, are you going to be disappointed. Boy, are you going to be snowed by this one, because it ain't the Conor of old that's coming back. I will promise you that. Anyway, he comes out and destroys his leg immediately. This is from the live feed, this first clip, and we're going to get to replays, and we're going to get some conspiracy theories as well, revolving around whether Conor was hurt beforehand or not. But over to you, Stevie. What went wrong?
Well, thank you very much, James. New territory here, although I have watched Conor McGregor MMA matches in UFC, as well as the fight with Floyd Mayweather. And we might have another theory that's along the lines of that, I guess, right? So we're looking at this. Now, I have a question. It's a little grainy for me to watch. I saw him in Roadhouse, and he was in on social media in certain ways. How big he got, how muscular he got. Did he have to drop a ton of weight for this fight to get back down?
Yeah, right. So here's the story: is that he broke his leg with Dustin Poirier 5 years ago, and UFC was trying to gaslight, saying, "Oh, he was winning the match, he was doing so well," and then in this fortune, no, he was getting his ass handed to him.
5 years ago, he was still getting his butt handed to him, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. So, like 5 years ago, he wasn't the Conor of old. I mean, the last great fight he had was Cowboy Cerrone, and it's because Cowboy was on the way down as well, but Conor actually went out there and destroyed him. But that was like 6 years ago, whenever it was. After the Nurmagomedov fight, he was never the same afterwards. And he said after the leg break, he said this on Ariel Helwani's show, that he took himself out of the testing pool, and he was doing a lot of steroids, a lot of everything. And his excuse was, well, I just wanted to get fit so I could play with my kids, which is not the worst answer in the world. But the fact is that with, long-term steroid use, you were going to get long-term benefits long after you stop them as well. Steroids, performance enhancers, whatever you want to call them. So the answer is, yeah, he got really big, but he had a lot of help as well. And yes, he would have had to have cut a lot of weight for this, which I imagine this was 155.
Oh, wow, that is a lot of weight, because he was pushing 200 at one point, even though he's not a super tall guy. So let's take a look at this, and I might have to back it up. Ooh, I would say that would be an ankle injury. I know he you see what I mean? That right foot there, and then comes down right there. So is it the right or the left leg that we're talking about? Because
we are talking about the right leg.
Look at it right there. That's an ugly angle right there, because the toe is pointing down there. Who knows what way the knee's going, but he was trying to throw that kick, and we're going to get to a theory about that, I bet. But watch when he jumps, tries to throw the kick up, and man, the ankle first, but then the knee angle right there. Yeah, he doesn't quite get the ankle planted to where it rolls, but it looks like we've all done it, where we've hyperextended our knee getting up or making a turn, or just the dumb little things that happen as you get older. But Now, this is a leg break, not like a blown out knee, ligaments, tendons.
No. This is suspected to be either an ACL or a meniscus tear. So this is a knee thing. It's not so clear on this footage. It's a lot clearer
based
on
on
the replay,
based on his PED use, the ligaments and the tendons and everything around the joint gets weakened. That's why a lot of them tear triceps, tear pecs, tear biceps. But yeah, even tearing quads happens when you're on a ton of stuff. So let's go watch the rest of this. Oh yeah, he seems to have no base there. On the first one, he jumped and he seemed to tweak it or tear it or do whatever. The second one looked like he had nothing to keep himself upright. So it might have been torn on that first one or torn before the fight even happened.
Yeah, it's very much suspected it was on the first one. I want to make a bit of a correction. This is welterweight, 170. Just Max Holloway and Conor traditionally wrestled lightweight, fought lightweight. Or in Conor's case, he was originally 145 at featherweight. Is that featherweight? I can't remember which one was 145.
I don't know.
No, yeah, welterweight's 170.
Oh.
So if you want to go to the second video, that's slow-mo, and that is a lot clearer.
This one here. This almost looks like a video game, does it? It's like UFC 6 or something.
I love that camera angle.
It's
though.
awesome.
Weren't we just saying with Raw as well, where they've got kind of that same camera? I bet the sponsors love it, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, TKO's got a few things to catch up to. They're like, maybe we should go to an octagon and be more. You know what, dude? I just said it. We have the 6-sided ring. We're going to make an 8-sided ring. There we go. Let's take a look at this. I love the camera angle. The jump. Okay, it doesn't take a lot, but it doesn't look as pronounced as that first angle. Do you see that?
Mm.
But then again, right? He seems to want to turn around and grab the knee right there. Like I said, the past use definitely weakens the ligament, or your muscles grow so fast that the ligaments and tendons, and then you're cutting weight. Do you see the incredible strain put on the ligaments and the tendons? Even the bones. All right, you're the MMA expert, but I would dare, as far as technique or whatever, but okay, let's just go with it. Okay, you're the expert. What I would guess is that when you're jumping up and doing that type of kick, if it's not a spin kick, he's doing a straight like kick to the face, right? Or like a round kick, but not fully going around. I don't know the name, but should the foot and the knee be pointing in the direction towards the opponent during that kick? And then this leg comes down and you have a base.
Here's the problem. It's a lot different when you land something to when you completely miss and you have to pivot. You know what I mean?
Because you're stuck. Because then you have the ability to come down onto this foot and get back in your stance, right?
Yeah, like from that kick, you're gonna, and if you completely whiff it like Conor McGregor did, you will want to do a 360 and then get back to your base.
In other words, this foot comes here, and this foot ends up pointing in the same direction as that. But he has the foot on the ground, so missing means that this knee and this foot both need to be there. That leg comes down there, and Conor almost has his back for a split second to Dustin, and then he needs to just kick it around and face off against him, right?
Yeah, essentially. If you're going to put that much power in it with the first kick, which he's done so many times before, if you completely miss like Conor did, you are going to want to be able to spin around. But the fact is that he may have just absolutely presumed he was going to hit him with it, and therefore, you see what I mean there?
Got pretty close.
Maybe he's over-rotated with the foot.
He got pretty close. So here's a question, too. It's an honest question as somebody just watching this and somebody who would be incredibly rusty if I got back into a wrestling ring. I would need to train, and there's a theory about the training with Conor we're going to get into. Your range, your body language, the technical aspect, even if you're training, when you get in there, the adrenaline, everything, could it just be that Conor, because he's been so inactive or not as active as he was once before, couldn't guess the range? Maybe this kick was just to kind of figure out what's the range for this kick. he was saying, hey, if I hit it, I hit it. But this is just an initial trying to find my range again for punches and kicks.
Yeah, I mean, very possibly. I mean, that's what the jab's for as well, is to find your punching range more than anything, at least in the initial. Your jab range is to get comfortable and essentially as much as anything else, how much they move away from them as well.
Yeah.
And how they react to everything. So, usually the beginning of a fight is a feeling out process, unless you're like Conor and you just kind of launch in there. But once again, like where he's planted his foot, it just looks like he's way too over rotated with the foot immediately when he lands on it. And then that's where the knees buckle. But there is another theory.
Can I say something real quick, please, before you get into that? What I'm seeing here as I slow it down, I'm trying to look at his face because he's throwing the kick and then he lands.
But look, he's looking forward still. You know what I mean? He's still looking forward. His body pointed forward while his knee and foot are pointing 90 degrees at least away.
But the other thing that I'm looking at is I'm just trying to think, like, Conor didn't want to let anybody know. This is just a theory for now, watching this in a vacuum. In this split second, when he turns around, the grimace comes up and he wants to grab the knee. But if Dustin sees that he's grabbing his knee, he's going to go for that.
It's Max Holloway.
Max Holloway. I thought it was done. Oh, you saw it 5 years ago. I'm mixing him up. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. So, but when he grimaces, you see how he's looking maybe to grab the knee, but then he has to catch his fall, and he's kind of, but still has somewhat of a grimace. Not that I missed, but man, is something wrong. It's almost like it's registering with him. And then he has to get his eye back on Max to see what's going on. Can you see that?
Yeah, oh yeah.
The match is over. I think the fight's over here, and Conor might be like, dude, I'm done. There's like that split second that it's over. And we have a theory, we'll get into it now, that it might have been over before it even started.
Okay, so if you want to, you can pick either of the videos that are remaining, and I'll just talk you through them. This one was shown on the show. This is the warm-up prior, with him basically throwing the same kick over and over again. But there's a heck of a lot of difference. But if you pause where he hits the kick on the pad the first time and see his foot placement,
yeah,
see what I mean? It's not as over rotated as it is in the cage. But here's the other difference: is that when you're hitting a kick and you're hitting it on the pads, and then you can bounce your leg back and get into your stance. That's a completely different foot placement, because you know you can hit your target, and then you can bring your foot back. Whereas if you've got a live opponent, a live target, and then you miss completely, then you have to kind of make sure that your leg is in a position where Conor's leg wasn't in the fight, if you know what I mean. Not overextended, not over pivoting, not over extending your knee as well to, for every contingency, because as Conor has proven there, assuming that he wasn't injured when he got in there, that one wrong leg placement can end the fight.
Well, the other thing with the way he threw the kick, look at it, look at the foot placement, the leg placement. He has such a base, and he's just throwing that head kick. But on the opening of the fight, he did a running start, jumping and doing like the Karate Kid crane kick. He was in the air.
Yeah, but that can be adrenaline. That could be anything. That can just be overexcitement.
And you know what? If you want to talk about a theory, he was going for it, right? He's done that before, and he's ended up kind of finishing the fight pretty quick. So what we're looking at here is the possibility, was he trying to just take it home, brother, as quick as possible and finish this guy off?
Yeah, I think if Conor was going to win this, assuming he wasn't hurt beforehand, he was going to have to be within 2 rounds. Or maybe even 1 round, because his cardio has always been a little bit suspect. But luckily for Conor, for the most part, his fights have gone 1 or 2 rounds in his career. If you want to go to the remaining video as well, and this is kind of where some people were saying, did he tweak something earlier? Did he go into the fight injured and not tell anybody just so he could get the payday? And it's this one. And it's at the pre-fight kind of check just outside the cage, and the referee checks, for fingernails and anything on your body that could be too slippy to, help you out of grappling or whatever. He takes his shoes off. Look at his reaction.
Okay. Did Conor say when he did that, he go, make it a tag? Because I've,
Oh, was I doing? I
yeah,
was
you're
doing the
doing a
Raven. I'm
thing.
sorry.
Yeah, make it tag. All right, he's taking it off. Ooh.
So, I mean, some were saying, was that just a balance issue, or maybe he tweaked something, or maybe he walked to the ring with some kind of thing. The other thing with Conor as well is that his head is really bloated, and he has treated his body badly for quite a few years at this point, and he's trying to get into shape, but he does not look like the Conor of old. He looks like he like even in the interviews, he looks bloated, he looks washed out. So people didn't really give him much of a chance, even beyond the 5-year layoff that he had.
You want me to dive deep into theories and his body language and his face? This happens where he's like, kind of like, just when you kind of close your eyes and you're like, it's like a half a grimace, you know, it feels like that's what it looks like. Then he's kind of looking down at it, like, okay, do I, is it bad? You know what I mean? You're kind of, he's going in the self-evaluation mode, like diagnosis, and he's looking at it. Then what he does is, I'm good. I'm good. Look at me. And he puts the flag up. But watch this. When he's trying to bounce around, it's a little bounce. It's almost like he's testing it. And then he's looking right down at the foot again. That could all
But
be
that was
just,
the other leg, though. That's the thing. That's the interesting thing. He had the little wobble on the wrong leg.
yeah.
So that was on his left leg, but then he tore up his right leg.
It's something weird. No, he's looking at the right here. When he looks down, he's trying to see, yeah, I know it looks like he's on his toe with the left. This is a bit confusing. But see, that's where he's there playing it down with the left. And the right is the one that he's kind of focusing on and babying for half a second. Now he's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Dude did it for the money. I mean, there's no question about that. Nobody's doubting that. That's not a theory. He came back to get paid.
There's a couple of other interesting things. So UFC is doing a heck of a lot of gaslighting, a heck of a gaslighting job. I mentioned before, they were trying to say Conor was beating Dustin Poirier, and he wasn't. He was losing. Anyway, there's another one where Dana White, in one of the, I think it was one of the pre-fight deals when it was actually in the arena, saying all the Las Vegas hotel rooms are sold out for this one. And then everyone just went on Agogo, whatever it is. Not Anthony Agogo. Agoda, that's what I meant. Or hotel, whatever it is. And just search for available room in every single hotel. Apart from maybe the MGM related ones. It's like, why even lie about that? But why not, I guess, when you're Dana White.
I think Vegas is one big lie right now, talking about tourism and the economy and everything. And they're just trying to, maybe that's just gaslighting the sponsors and people they want to work with or whatever.
Maybe. The fight itself was embarrassing straight from the off, because I wrote Herb Dean. It wasn't Herb Dean. It was Mike Beltram, the guy with a really long mustache. He just kept saying,
tucks in his shirt?
Yeah. Oh, dude, Dutch has got such mustache envy with that dude. He wouldn't ever admit it, but I'm sure he has. It's like, it's got to be extensions. Anyway, he just keeps telling Max, go for it. And Max is like, dude, he's obviously hurt. His kids are in the crowd. I don't want to kill him. And anyway, after the third time, I think Conor drops because he can't stand up. That's when Mike throws it out. About 70 seconds in. But this was already a joke, this fight from the off. McGregor is expected to get an MRI done this week on his injured right leg. USA Today also mentioned that their source is familiar with the situation but is not authorized to discuss it publicly, but noted that the MRI will get a clearer picture of the injury, which is looking to be potentially either an ACL or meniscus cartilage injury at this point. So we'll see, hopefully late this week, what it is.
I had a question on my mind about this. Oh, I was going to ask, like, what were the payoffs for the fight? What was Conor getting? What was Max getting?
They don't really release the payoffs for this kind of thing. They've got like an official payoff thing, and then they've got the under-the-counter payoffs, which ends up usually being a lot more. But if you want my guess, I think Conor's made 8 figures out of this in one fight. Easily, I'd say.
Yeah,
and they're really looking for beating Ronda Rousey, I'm sure, that Netflix fight.
So we're in a new era. I was going to ask what the buy rate was. What was it? But what metric are they going to judge this off of? that it was a successful pay-per-view PLE
Oh,
subscription.
complete lies. Here's how it works these days. Paramount Plus now shows all the UFC shows, right? But on the replays, they don't show the full episodes. They show the individual fights for music licensing reasons or whatever they're claiming.
So they show clips like we do?
Yeah, essentially, of every fight. So what happens is that they can probably claim if you watch like 5 fights, they'll say, well, you count as 5 viewers. So you can't trust their numbers whatsoever.
But that's the metric they'll use to get ad money, to get subscriptions, to charge and do all that to pay Conor McGregor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Right, let's move on. Let's go to the SummerSlam ticket issue. What do you know about it so far? Because they are not selling. This came out like 4 days ago as we record this, 5 days ago, maybe a few days ago at least. The ticket sales for SummerSlam, which is in less than 3 weeks, are dire, like stunningly low for what you would think they would be. They've got a 73,000 seat stadium max capacity. Minneapolis, is it the US Bank Arena Stadium? Excuse me, in Minneapolis. 22,000 for Saturday, and even less for Sunday, about 21,000.
Oh, it's
down.
2 days. That's right.
Yeah.
Wow. Double the gaslighting. I guess all the hotels in Minneapolis are going to be sold out too. Haha. There you go, Jeff.
I mean, straight away, that's a stunning number. Considering WrestleMania still did over 50,000 each night, and SummerSlam last year did like 50 odd to 60,000 each night. That was only a year ago. And I can give you the numbers roughly off the top of my head. For 3 weeks out for WrestleMania 42, and it's not apples to apples, way more expensive tickets for WrestleMania, and they were running the same venue in the same city, obviously, 2 years in a row. And they were about just shy of 40,000 for a comparative Saturday to Saturday, 3 weeks out. Same for SummerSlam last year, and that was in New Jersey, about 39,000 3 weeks out they'd sold. SummerSlam this year, 22,000 on Saturday. It's a huge downturn, and there has been a downturn in tickets these last few months.
Well, like Kevin Costner said in Draft Day, we live in a completely different world, not than 20 seconds ago, but than last year. The economy, the cost of everything, even just gas, but that leads to higher prices with everything else. And we talked about this. We've been doing the show for over 2 years now. And I think the theme when we touch on it all the time is eventually they're going to hit that wall. Eventually it's going to be too much. Eventually people are going to say, I cannot afford this, or I'm just going to switch to $30 a month in ESPN, or even then, all these different subscriptions. There's like an everything crisis. We just talked about the Sony PlayStation stuff with the digital, but it has to do with cost too. Grand Theft Auto is like $100 for a digital, not even a physical disc. So what you're talking about is you're pricing these people out to where they have to choose very sparingly what they spend money on, if they even have it. Or maybe the credit cards finally are maxed out. People are finally in too much debt, and wrestling is the one thing on the shopping block. Especially going in person, traveling to Minneapolis, whatever it might be. I mean, that's a building that hosted the Super Bowl that the Eagles won. So I was very happy about that building. But you're right. Here's the one thing they haven't done to move tickets that they should have done. And we can explore this a little bit deeper. If they had promoted this as Brock Lesnar's last match, and he didn't walk away, put the gloves and the boots in the ring at WrestleMania after Obafemi defeated him, I think that would have spiked the ticket sales a little bit more. Do you think that?
Yeah, almost like a loser leave town.
The retirement tour.
But the loser already left town, then came back.
Yeah. So if it is his last match, it's like been there, done that type thing. And once again, after WrestleMania was down, and everything usually after WrestleMania is that WrestleMania revenge tour. It's usually going into SummerSlam, carries it in, but now SummerSlam, which was usually a very, very good pay-per-view. You could argue that it's really not in any particular, WrestleMania is at the top, whatever, but you got to look at Royal Rumble as the catalyst to make WrestleMania happen. But right up there with SummerSlam, wasn't it? It always was near and dear to my heart. SummerSlam was always a big show.
Yeah, Survivor Series was always fourth. Pretty much always fourth out of the big four, and then King of the Ring was fifth out of the big five. Arguably, I think these days, and a lot of the time, I think the Royal Rumble was second. But it doesn't matter. I mean, it's one of the big three, if you want to put it that way.
Those were the big four: WrestleMania, Rumble, Survivor Series, SummerSlam, back when there was only 4 pay-per-views a year.
Yeah.
So
Survivor Series was always fourth, though, out of those 4, or nearly always fourth out of those 4.
yeah, because there was always gang warfare, team warfare, and a little angle came out of that, but that pushed to the Rumble, then WrestleMania.
Yeah. There are more theories here. Like, I've looked at like ticket sales for television, and like year on year, they're down thousands, really, on the most part. I mean, it's not like they're playing to empty arenas, but you know, a year ago or 2 years ago, they would have thought nothing averaging, you know, like 12,000, you know, for the entire year for a Raw, and now it's going down to, I don't even know what it's going down to, but it feels like 8,000 to 9,000 average. So the business is dropping off, and WWE WrestleVotes came out with a report recently saying this has been a bone of contention, a worry within WWE for like a month, that they are just not shifting the tickets. And I haven't really felt the urgency to get people to buy tickets that much to SummerSlam. I know SummerSlam was coming, but there just didn't seem to be that urgency to actually sell the tickets. I don't know if I'm just forwarding through. I mean, because I forward through a lot of it, but it didn't even occur to me to buy tickets to it, you know? Or the other people would. I don't know if they've just done a bad job of kind of harping on the availability of these things, you know, and they just assumed they'd sell.
When you got to promote and push everything, and they just got back from Saudi Arabia, they got the Chicago show with Punk, everything gets lost in translation. It's essentially a gloss over. Like, why are they not promoting SummerSlam? Well, you just got done promoting promoting the you know, the Night of Champions. Is that what it was over in Saudi Arabia?
It was?
Yeah. But here's a theory. Do you think that WWE, now I think they planned this and all the stuff with Sammy winning it and then Punk winning it, but they tend to panic a little bit. And sometimes maybe those figures came in and they had plans for Sammy to keep the title a little bit longer. And they said, well, wait a minute, let's just hot shot, get Punk in as champion, and maybe it'll spike ticket sales.
Yeah, I don't think that's a... But here's the thing. I think AEW did the same thing, because like Kenny Omega and MJF were meant to be wrestling in 3 weeks at the pay-per-view AEW Redemption. And then it was going to be all in. And then some people say at the behest of MJF, but Tony Khan approved it. They brought it up 3 weeks onto free television, this big title match, right? So it kind of, I presume, hurts the pay-per-view. But also, you know, they need big views on TV because of the Paramount deal and buying Warner Brothers Discovery, etc. But also, they need like a solid main event, or at least a main event that they can advertise for the all-in show. So then you can kind of argue the same thing with CM Punk and Cody Rhodes, because they're going to be one of the 2 main events, is that they needed a solid, what they think is a AAA main event between 2 major names to start shifting these tickets. And then they're looking at Old Faithful Punk and Old Faithful Cody Rhodes, and well, that'll work. And I'm not sure it has.
No, I contend that because it's a Minneapolis, Brock Lesnar, essentially, that's his area, that it should have been the homecoming for Brock, last match for Brock, or something along the lines where Brock is featured more. What you're talking about is the same exact thing that happened with WrestleMania 42. Let's take the safe option, which what could also be interpreted as the boring and stale option as well. What is the new coat of paint on SummerSlam? What are we hoping to get out of SummerSlam except let's get through this week? Is there any business or any volatility or chaos that they can replicate in a short amount of time leading up to this? As a matter of fact, they're doing what they did with WrestleMania 42. It's like, we're not even going to know like what the matches are solidly until a couple weeks before or whatever. We're just going to start announcing that. There's way too many pay-per-views, PLEs, Saturday night's main events, all these different things. It's starting to get so muddy. It's beyond muddy now. It's been muddy, but I think they're paying a penance for that as well.
There's also, you know, that WWE are putting on so many PLEs in 2025 It's because they wanted to get out the Peacock deal earlier, basically fulfill their obligations to Peacock so they could sign with ESPN. At least now they're back to once a month, plus whatever Saturday night's main events could turn up. So there's like 16 major PLEs, essentially. I want to ask about the card.
You got to say my favorite pay-per-view name.
Backlash. Backlash! There you go. When was the last time Cody Rhodes and CM Punk wrestled? When do you think?
Oh, goodness. I would have to say it was it might have been during the time when CM Punk and Daniel Bryan wrestled back then, during that one of those episodes of Raw. Was Cody Rhodes dark hair, dashing Cody Rhodes with the face thing?
Not even that. He was still in, he wasn't even in Legacy, or just about in Legacy at that point in 2008. The reason I bring this up is because in my video, I said that they've wrestled so many times together. I've got the Mandela effect, where I thought they'd wrestled a major singles title match recently, and they were just rerunning it back. And I'm wondering if I'm the only one. Because I swear I thought they'd wrestled on a major pay-per-view recently.
Yeah, I don't remember that. I think they haven't wrestled all that much, but here's the other thing. What's the build-up? It's going to be Punk and Cody for sure at SummerSlam, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What's the build-up? Because they touched on the fact not too long ago when they were in the ring cutting a promo on each other and talking about certain things in the future. Was it right after Cody won the belt?
Yeah, it would have been like the Raw after WrestleMania. Or would that have been that? Because I know that was the last time CM Punk was there and he said you never know when a title match might just fall out the sky. Are you talking about that one or a different one?
Was it that one or the one when he won it back from Drew?
Just before WrestleMania?
Yeah, there was one. It was right in that kind of time space where they were face to face and Punk kind of gave him the hint that he was coming after the title.
That was the post-WrestleMania
Okay.
one.
Man, it feels like
where he was looking at the belt,
it all just runs together. It feels like.
But that's the point I'm kind of making. Is like, do other people like me think, well, these two guys interact so much, they must have wrestled recently. It doesn't feel like a fresh match.
It's not stale, but it feels like it's stale. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so... Just because they've both been such perennial champions these last few years, I feel like I've already seen it, and I know it sounds weird. Let me give you the rest of the match card. Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins. I believe this will be their 30th singles match.
You thought Randy and Cody. You thought Randy and Cody was safe. Well, here have you some Shield versus Shield.
God, I know. Brock Lesnar versus Obafemi. We've seen this match twice since WrestleMania. Liv Morgan versus Io Sky. This was the finals of Queen of the Ring a couple of weeks ago. We've already seen that. Penta versus Chad Gable, which I'm sure we've seen quite a few times before as well. And then there's going to be a six-man, which is just going to be the opener once again. Well, for some reason, LA Knight's against the Usos now because he just complains all the time. Everything else, okay, right. CM Punk and Cody Rhodes feels like not fresh to me. Anyway, feels like something that's happened a million times. Everything else important's a rematch.
Yeah, and I would say this: I saw the match with Brock and Obafemi. You know how sometimes they open up the show with a cage match?
For ESPN purposes sometimes,
yes. Do you think that would, because I don't know, there's not enough time to say Brock is going to be in the main event and obviously title matches they wanted last. He got 2 nights too. How many matches are going to be on each pay-per-view or each night?
Well, apparently ESPN has told Bruce Pritchard to stop booking 4 matches per PLE, and it's probably going to be more like 6.
That's what I was hoping you would say, because I remember you talked about that. Yeah, but what are they going to fill in LA Knight? I know he mentioned every single episode. My goodness. You're gonna make him part of an 8-man, 10-man. You're gonna have the old Ken Kennedy in 17 people versus 2 guys, and I mean, come on,
dude. They should have Hogan and Savage versus 9 guys in the Triple Tower of Doom, and make sure that LA Knight's the one getting pinned, because that's what they did with Ric Flair. They made sure Ric Flair was eating that pin, even though you had Jeep Swenson in there.
Yeah. Oh, Bane from Batman movie, huh?
Oh, yeah.
I was looking at this saying, is LA Knight in the spot where it's going to be an elimination, but each person on the other team pins him to eliminate him, and then his own tag team partners turn on him and they pin him as well? Because that's where we're at to try to bury this guy.
Yeah, it's kind of Dunk the Clown at this point, I think.
Unbelievable.
They're trying to go in the dunking thing. Right, let's go. Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns. They had another segment on Monday. It wasn't as bad as the one the previous week, but it was still a Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins segment. I'm sorry I'm biased, I just don't find him interesting. But it's like they're still going for the Shield Explode. The Shield Explode 12 years ago, and we are still going on about, like, come off it. No one didn't really care that much when they broke up the first time. And now we're a dozen years removed and they're still trying to bring it up.
We're at a point too where there's probably young fans that don't even know anything about the Shield. That just watch this. These are the people that Nick Bockwinkel, they have no idea who it is. Yeah, I'm gonna bring that guy's name up again. But yeah, that's this. I said that first promo. I still contend this is something these guys want. They want to have that match at SummerSlam with each other. This is for them. It doesn't feel like it's for anybody out there.
I've got apart from Obafemi in the main event scene, nobody's fresh here. Everybody's very, very well established. And you've got people like
Well,
LA
thank
Knight,
God
Bron
Seth
Breakker,
Rollins
Jacob
and
Fatu.
Roman Reigns are kicking down that door and telling the old guys to get out of there.
Goodness me, yeah. Like, do you remember when WWE used to make fun of, like, age in the cage, whatever, with whatever? And now, like, these guys are about the same age, Hogan and Seth, and
The
CM
Huckster
Punk's
and the
47
Nacho Man and
Cody.
Billionaire Ted.
Yeah, it's kind of at that point. Anyway, the dark horse for me is Gunther and Nick Aldis if they book that match. I don't know if it's going to be a huge ticket seller, but at least it's a fresh matchup. And at least it feels an exciting and actual, like a visceral blood feud kind of thing that you really wonder what's going to happen with it. I don't wonder what anything's going to happen in any of the other matches.
It's kind of funny. They have a chance right now to have the best match on the pay-per-view. And it's not even, it's authority figure versus a wrestler.
I think that's kind of it, apart from if SummerSlam last year is a barometer of how many tickets they're going to sell this year, SummerSlam this year might get maybe 33,000 and 32,000, like for Saturday and Sunday. But also, All In is selling more tickets, it must also be said, and they've got more time as well. So hopefully, they might get to 40,000, might All In. But here's the big deal. With WrestleMania especially, WWE has established so much that if they aren't selling tickets, and we can talk about Club WWE as well, because they're saying, well, if you pay $100 a year to us, then you can get in the ticket pre-sales. It's like the ticket pre-sale is only good for two things. One, for people who want the front row, and two, if this show's looking to be sold out in the first day. Very few people fit into either of those categories, and the shows aren't going to sell out in advance. The point I'm trying to make is, WrestleMania, WWE established very early on, they were going to do flash sale after flash sale after flash sale after flash sale to fill that building up. And what did most people do? Or a lot of people do, they wait till the last day, when they knew the tickets would be at their cheapest. They've established that now. Do you think that is part of the problem?
Yeah, I think when we talked about that, they literally opened Pandora's box, and any consumer that pays attention for 5 seconds and tries to be a little bit patient outside of the green shirt guy that buys the front row tickets all the time, those kinds of people are always going to exist. But at the same time, we are looking for the Summerfest code. We're looking for midnight codes. We're looking for I still contend that CM Punk should have came out. He mentioned those ticket prices. It should have been CM Punk as a code to save and make him the guy to cost TKO money. He would have got so much more over. It wouldn't even been a gray area going into WrestleMania. He would have been a baby face and you would have sold a ton of tickets, and you would not have looked like you were retreating. He would have been the catalyst for that.
Yeah, instead they marked it around the 250th birthday of America. As a celebration, we're going to discount all tickets across the summer, including the house shows and the TVs and everything else.
Of course. I mean, they're so very generous.
How does SummerSlam, I'm not going to say save, but I think it's also safe to say it's a bit of a disaster for them. Because this is a huge downturn from SummerSlam last year. Obviously, it had Cena on the card as well. How do they save it? Is there any way you can see they're going to get 40,000 a night at this point?
Well, I don't think you save it, but I think it's the canary in the coal mine where you got to look at what's going on. They've been ignoring it. telling everybody to shut the F up and enjoy the show. And we need new fans. We don't care about these fans. They've seemingly said all the wrong things. That's the first thing. We seem to have a lot of corporations and people that are blaming the consumer and the customer and the fan. That needs to change. I think it's too late for SummerSlam, but I don't think it's too late moving forward for Survivor Series or like moving forward after that. They need to learn a lesson with this. Because you know what they're going to do? All right, it's yield over income like Disney's doing. Okay, maybe we'll get 35, but then we can announce that we made more money than ever on the gate and never say the amount. So let's raise the prices even more. And you might be like, that's stupid, but isn't that the world we live in?
Yeah. The difference is, though, is that WrestleMania, I don't know about SummerSlam yet last year, but the buy-in price for WrestleMania this year was like $400 for a single day. And the buy-in at this point for SummerSlam is like 77. So it's not
it's still not sold.
Oh, dude, yeah, and there's loads of them. Yeah. It's like a fifth of the price of what they were charging for WrestleMania at this point. That was full price. But the thing is that I don't think the card has anything for me if I was living there domestically. You know, to travel down, buy a ticket. There's nothing there for me that's exciting. Everything is very, very safe or very predictable. Because I think no one thinks Obafemi's losing.
Well, that's a weird one right there because he might if it's probably too close to my hometown, brother. But Brock wouldn't say that, but they might do that. If they're not selling $77 tickets, if those are still available and it's such a low pre-sale, then you are creatively bankrupt. You really need to do something. Because what Survivor Series is going to be even lazier because guess what we do after SummerSlam? Well, we're going to team up now. Now it's gang warfare until November, and here we go. Unless there's a pay-per-view or Saudi show in between.
So next we're going to move on to CM Punk and a couple of things about Punk out of the ring. One of them, it was that, I don't know if he was accosted or approached by fans respectfully. Look, they kind of made it out in this video that they couldn't just wait to get out there to make Punk seem like a terrible person. That something's off with this. But anyway, some young family posted a social media video trying to say that CM Punk kind of ignored them, scowled at them, wouldn't give them the time of day as he was checking into a hotel. You saw the video they posted, and there's more follow-up to it as well. What did you make out of their video?
Well, they look pretty happy about it. They look pretty excited. They look like what I would think when it happened the first time or anytime stuff like this is put out there, and we use the term in wrestling, Punk sells for it. Punk doesn't just do there was an airport thing where people would take hundreds of items to the baggage claim and have you sign it and then put it up on eBay back in the day. Punk has even made mention and has issues with people with that, bringing shopping carts full of stuff. These people were just, I guess, looking for a picture and autograph. You're going to get to the female's Instagram account in a few. But once it happens and it gets out there in the ether amongst the fans, that you can really rile this guy up. I've seen it at conventions. Hey, if you go to that guy's table and you say this, you can really make him mad. You pee him off and we can film him getting mad. And that's like the holy grail of the social media gotcha moment, trying to do the paparazzi style, doing that. Now, I'm going to say this, an overarching theme of this, as somebody that's completely on the other side of it and never, ever, like it was kind of cool, but never been comfortable being recognized or anything like that. I'm very gracious and grateful for it. And somehow I get more recognized for this show now when I'm out doing things than even the wrestling. And that's awesome. Same thing with Maven. But what I'm saying is we grow up. What do we all grow up wanting to be if you want to be an athlete, a football player, basketball, baseball, movie star, TV star, professional wrestler, anybody that's famous? You're like, I can't wait to be famous, be recognized everywhere I go, sign autographs. It's never going to get old. I don't know why these people always complain about it. Then you get into whatever said sport entertainment, whatever it might be. And then you say, leave me alone while I'm eating. Leave me alone when I'm checking in. Leave me alone when this and that. and the other thing. It's a really weird thing. Then you get out of the business, and most people are like, all I want to do is try to do anything I can. And we see former wrestlers doing this. I don't care what it is. I want my name out there and I want to be relevant. So it goes like it just flip flops around. So I'm just putting that out there for context that it's a weird love-hate relationship between pro wrestlers and the fans at times. But the fans also at times, even though, we owe everything to them as far as if they didn't believe in us and they didn't buy tickets and didn't do things, wrestling wouldn't exist. There's that. But then there's the fans that weaponize that and say, you owe me everything. It's such a weird thing. And I don't know what the happy medium is, except what you said, I think, in the notes is just sign the autograph, take the photo, make the small talk, and go on your way, especially with the ones that are trying to get moments like this. And I may be off with this, but did you get the impression that that's exactly what that woman wanted to do? She wanted the Punk to be, and you don't know what they were doing to Punk. I don't know.
Well, I think in the video they were the kids, because one of them was a lot older than the other, I think. But they were actually calling out his name and going, "Yo, CM, yo, CM." That's what they say in the video. So all I got from that was that like these two kids were being annoying, and calling out over the lobby. There's so much kind of to this.
Can I stop you real quick? I just want to get a thought out. I'm so sorry. If you could hold that. That's another thing that's a slippery slope because you made the point in the notes. I would never, like, even if the parent, and sometimes with the parent, you like want to say, hey, set an example for your kid, not this woman, but I'm saying you're acting like a butthead. Stop in front of your kids, doing that. But I would never, ever, even at the cost of being disrespected or anything like that. And I would talk to kids at conventions and say please and thank you. And 99% would, and the 1% would. My mom and dad said I don't have to do that. I was like, oh, well, there's the problem. And those will be the ones I'll be like, well, you don't want a picture or a photo here. This is not the place. This is not the place for you. This is not the autograph you're looking for. I just wanted to put that, but then the parents can weaponize the kids to get what they want out of the wrestlers.
Exactly. CM Punk posted a couple of years ago, don't use your kids as a shield or as an in or as an excuse to get close to the wrestlers for your own personal gain as well, which is one of the accusations. We can get to that in a minute, but her contention is, hey, we were in fact, I'll read the quote. We did not stalk CM Punk or invade his space. We arrived at the hotel at the same time as some of the wrestlers. A little smile or wave would have been nice, but instead he totally ignored the boys and walked past them after the boys acknowledged him. No pasa nada. Well, there's so many different ways you can say. One, well, CM Punk doesn't owe you an interaction or anything. Two, you were hanging around the lobby for sure a heck of a long time. Even in the video straight at the beginning, it says 30 minutes later. Well, if you're not hassling people, how come you're there for at least, according to your own video, at least 30 minutes asking for photos from the wrestlers coming in? Were you really not following the wrestlers? Did you just happen to pick the same hotel as the wrestlers, or did you know they were going to be there? Is that your excuse for saying, that like, hey, we're in the same place, But like, some people think, they took it as, well, she say, well, we're in the same place. Well, how does that entitle you to any more of an interaction than if you weren't having rooms in the same hotel? But the biggest thing was the Instagram. I found the woman's Instagram, and there were 3 images, like, she's deleted them all now, but I found 3 images taken from screenshots from her stories that night, and they were all her with wrestlers, Trick Williams, Obafemi, and Charlotte Flair, I think. And her kids weren't in any of them. See what I mean? Trying to say that, like, oh, like, yeah, my kids are so disappointed that you didn't. The youngest kid seemed to be the most mature. He didn't care. He was like, yeah, I'm still a fan of his. It's fine. Whereas it's the woman and the older kid trying to project their disappointment onto the younger one, say, you've let down this young kid here. And
but they were all smiling. They were all smiling. Yeah. That's why I was saying it was almost like, and we're only speculating, but I've had a lot of experience where there's people looking to get a rise out of the wrestlers, and especially in the social media, picking your phone up and taking a video. Here we are, that you can get some clout or some sympathy. God.
That video was posted the same night. What does that tell you? They made it with a little picture beforehand, the subtitles on the whole bit. That video was posted as quickly as they could get it out. So I already have a theory of motive there.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope because, I thought for a while they were banning fans from hotels or keeping the wrestlers in a separate one. We saw the one WrestleMania weekend with Punk when Bailey and AJ Lee were hugging and the fan interaction there. See that there, when that became so public, it's kind of like, remember when Punk was in the crowd and people were pulling on him and he kind of reared back at one guy? Then after that, I guarantee you, people were testing him. People were trying to get a rise out of him. That clip from WrestleMania at the hotel, there was probably more that wasn't publicized, but I bet you people were like, let's see if we can piss CM Punk off. That's like a fun little, let's just stir the pot and see if we can do that. And that happens all the time.
Did you see the clip from the other day that made it out? It's on the same house show loop, and some guy in the front row, CM Punk was doing the shake hands with everyone in the front row because he was main event. And some guy reached and, hey, can I tell you something? Yeah, what? And it's like, you were a real a-hole to me 10 years ago. And Punk went, oh, good. It was probably because you're an a-hole, and then moved on. So there you go. You've got some dude.
What did they expect?
Yeah, and you've got some dude who's like built this moment up in his brain for years on years. Yeah, you weren't even in the company 10 years ago, so maybe bumped into him in the street. I don't know. You weren't in AEW. But it's like, so hang on. You've built this up in your head for years upon years to finally confront CM Punk. What are you hoping for? An apology? Like, grow up.
Well, I'll tell you what, I've had not the best interactions at times here and there, or things where I had an off day and there were certain people that I met years down the road and they were like, yeah, you were kind of off that day, or you seem rushed, or you seem like you're stressed about something. They put it a certain way. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I, buy them a soda or something, or if we're sitting down to eat, buy their food. That's not making me mad, but I did feel bad. I was like, I always try to give the fans the best experience whenever I do meet them. And there are ones that people like the Anthony Green kid that I wrestled that showed me the picture from 2002. And then there was a guy that emailed me, when we had a house show. It's funny because we went to double overtime in Madden, Danny Doring and myself, and made ourselves late for the house show in Westchester, New York at White Plains at the Civic Center, I think it was. And the kid, I took a picture of it. He sent me an email and said, I'm becoming a Catholic priest, and just so you know, I watch the show all the time. It's so family friendly. It was awesome. And he showed the picture that I took with him from like, had to be 2005, 2006. There's these things, like, I know it's a little off base, but I'm very hypersensitive to that sometimes I want to come off the best way I can. Sometimes my wife says I tend to look mean sometimes because I'm focused on something. We all can be taken, but this here, going back to this, it just seems like it has a motive, like you said. It's not an innocent, and Punk has been criticized rightfully sometimes for being a little crotchety, but if you're at that age and things are going on, everybody has something going on, by the way, the wrestlers and the fans. So you have to find a middle ground with this. I don't know the answer, because the fans are they're the ones buying the super expensive tickets to make Punk a multimillionaire. What do you do?
Well, what do you do in that situation? Let's say they were being a bit annoying. Let's say it was past midnight. Let's say the check-in process was taking forever. You just want to go to bed, and they're calling your name, and you're walking past. Do you say hello? Do you just ignore them? Or would it just depend on the day?
No, it wouldn't depend on anything with me, especially if you're talking about now or even before. More times than not, like I said, like 98, 99% of the time, I'm very aware. And if there's a kid there, it's a completely different thing. And like you said, the teenager or whatever, the preteen was pretty much on with the mother or the woman, but the little kids seem to have the best attitude of all. Those are kids I want to interact with. And also, in a way, it would have been funny if they tried to post that video and Punk got checked in and then he came back out and he said, guys, I'm sorry, I just wanted to get checked in. Let's get a photo. And would they still have posted that video? Maybe, because it probably got a lot of views, a lot of likes, a lot of comments. And I think it was Is there such a thing? Let me ask you this question. And I'm not saying about those three people, the mother or the woman and the two kids. Is there really truly a thing such as a fan now? Or with social media and everybody trying to get themselves over, or getting the likes and the comments and the views and the clicks and all that stuff. Are there really truly fans that just enjoy the product?
Like Vladimir the Superfan kind of thing.
Yes.
You just enjoy, yeah.
Or Masa over in Japan, really nice guy, really treated the wrestlers well. There are fans out there, but do they exist in this era of social media, YouTube, and trying to do the gotcha moment?
I think they do. And I also think those are the fans that are not in the inner, or want to be
They're
in
not
the
going to the
inner
hotel at
news
midnight. They're
cycle.
just watching the shows.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of people who don't even realize that there's a thing still called dirt sheets, because or you know, much in the way of secret wrestling news that
God bless
what's really
those
going on
people.
behind the scenes.
God bless those people. I wish
think there's
I
a
was
lot
one.
of them. I think there's a lot of them that are just casuals and just don't really care, or only check out WWE.com for news, you know? And yeah, I know they're like Triple H's favorite fans and stuff, but also they're kind of my favorite fans as well. They just take it for what it is and then do whatever else it is they like in their life.
Well, the thing is too that's kind of stuff always passes. By next week there'll be somebody else with some other fan or some other thing going on, and it'll be forgotten. I forgot about the Punk Hotel WrestleMania thing until this came up. So these things move really fast. We'll see. I mean, I know Punk's probably not even going to put it over at this point on social media at all.
Oh,
You
well,
know,
he did, in a sense.
did?
He actually, yeah, he posted on Instagram, then deleted it, saying, "Thank you to everybody in Las Cruces, New Mexico, which is where they're performing. Friendly reminder, do not follow me or stalk me in my hotel room," and then said something about his breakfast or something. And then he deleted it afterwards. So, yeah, there's, he did mention it.
You know what's funny with Punk is he's kind of a double draw in a way, if you think about it. There's people that love Punk no matter what, and then there's people like this that may now buy a ticket to see Punk get beat up so he can draw even more.
Let's move on to something else that CM Punk said. He was on, I was trying to think, it was the Stephanie McMahon one.
Boring Commercials podcast.
Yes, that one of many. CM Punk's advice to younger wrestlers. I'll give you the controversial answer now. I would like to see more people be a little more serious about things. And instead of happy to be here, I would like more feedback given to people coming through the curtain instead of just because people chase the hug and they come back and they're just like, I want it. They want to be told. I'm presuming told they're great. But I always say, well, just get off your effing phone. You're looking at Twitter to see how your effing match was. Could you listen to the people in the audience? Because that's your instant reaction. That's your boss when you're out there, you know? Is it anymore with being... Anyway.
It's not. It's never been the boss. The people have never been the boss. I'm sorry.
I want the next generation to work less and get paid more than I did. That's what you should want. That's what you should want in any business. I talk to a lot of my friends in the NHL, and they're stoked that the young kids are making more money than they ever did. They're like, this is great. These young kids are making more money than we ever did. This is great. So that's part one. Your reaction to Punk's advice.
Yeah, well, it's all selective. I mean, it's according to your place on the card as well. Like one of the biggest things that, say, Maven and I still get criticized in the content creation space, not turn around like that, was our place on the card, that we don't have opinion. We don't deserve to have an opinion or knowledge or break down the business. That is even more so when you're actually on the roster. You're not allowed to. Hey, I asked a couple questions that got set on for 7 months. Other people do. Punk can say that because he's CM Punk and he's in the main event and he's figured in.
I've got to ask this, right? Do you think genuinely, and I know the answer, I'm not sure I know the answer, so do you think you get criticized more for having an opinion on the business than me? I've never wrestled. I never will wrestle.
You'll be marginalized at any level. If I only won the WWE title once, they're saying you're only a one-time WWE champion. What do you know? Or I only held it for a day or whatever. You see what I mean? It doesn't matter with that. Punk is absolutely right in a vacuum, outside of a business, in a real place that has, once again, a union or some kind of protection where you can speak up, you can stand up on your business. This is a 50-50 shot. Let's bring his name up again. What has been the criticism of LA Knight backstage?
Oh, that he botches too much.
Not botching, no, I'm talking about in the ring. He can be difficult to work with. There's your curse. Because he probably asks questions or he says, this is what I should do. I stand up on, and he's not fired, but he sure as heck cold off.
Do you remember the Unreal episode where Triple H was kind of like, in a fairly nice way, berating him for the Seth Rollins deal?
Yeah, when he was on kind of by the chair in girl
Yeah.
position.
Well, that's what CM Punk is kind of, I guess, advocating for more of.
No, I'm advocating for that too. Not on Unreal, though. When a guy like, oh, how dare you sell the finish? I'm still never going to give that up. You get curb stomped, you're supposed to pop up for the, it's so stupid. But yeah, I've said that before about being coached a little bit harder, not mean, but I want to pick you apart, split hairs, and make you perfect, or at least as close to perfect as I can get. Yeah, I mean, the hug and the point and the picture, that's not going to make anybody better. Now, I don't think you should do it. I don't think you should dress somebody down in public in front of everybody, but pull him or her aside and tell them, this is what you need to do.
What about Punk saying, I want the next generation to work less? Obviously get paid more, but work less. Is he talking about in the initial?
I'm not quite sure because they might be doing house shows again, but maybe the schedule's built up a little bit more than we realize. Maybe there's people worn down. Maybe the injuries are because of certain things. I don't know. I think they got a pretty good schedule right now.
Punk on believing management has changed for the better. There's NXT talent that come up and they get thrown on Raw and it's just like it's sink or swim. They think one little mistake, it's like the end of the world. It's often not. I think it used to be. I think a lot of that's left over from the old regime, so I'm presuming Vince McMahon, because I remember people getting fired because the punches sucked. We'd all be down there in Kentucky like, oh my God, you almost didn't want to get called up. It's like, this was a great talent, they got sent up, and then they were gone 2 weeks later. We thought for sure they were going to make it. It's like the turnover was a lot worse back in the old days. I think it's a lot better now. It's a lot more accommodating. I think there's people in positions of power that actually want to see people succeed. I want the next generation to work less and get paid more than I did because that's what you should want.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely, everybody had a very heavy atmosphere in that building, in the arena, just in general, that you literally, especially after WCW, after you bought it and there was nowhere to go, there was very much, you were on a tightrope. I talked about things where people will get punished and maybe even sent back down because there was that 6-month run where everybody had to hold the tag rope. And if you didn't hold the tag rope, that was Vince's thing. There was all these little things that really they meant something, but they didn't mean anything that would make anybody better. And the company really felt like they didn't want you to succeed. It was a constant test. It was a constant struggle, and you never felt comfortable in the locker room. Maybe a little bit over time, but you always thought, I'm getting fired this week. Remember, there was that quote earlier, I'm getting fired this week. That was every week for a lot of people.
I mean, it's kind of funny in that sense that WWE released like over 24 wrestlers. Like the whole clearing out thing's never going to change. The post WrestleMania clear out, and even people who have recently signed contracts for $1 million+ deals a year, who have got tenure with the company, are also not immune to at least having the ultimatum to getting fired.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a I don't know. It's kind of a hypocritical existence where we want you to succeed, but wait a minute, what are you making? We don't want you to succeed that much. Was he saying this to Stephanie, by the way?
Oh, God, yeah.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, I mean, CM Punk's general advice is that they need more coaching. They need to stay off their phones more, and I guess pay more attention. But wasn't that the suggestion that The Undertaker said to stop people playing the games backstage? Like, I guess he wanted them to gargle Jack and shoot guns or whatever it was he wanted to do. But wasn't that basically the thinking that they should be thinking more about their match that night?
Yeah, but I mean, once you're done your match, that's the other thing too about, staying till the end when you have a 300-mile drive on the house shows. If you get the WWE, you should be, and like you were saying before, people are getting fired for not throwing good punches. I don't necessarily think it's like one match where you didn't throw good punches and Vince did have those moods where get rid of them. But I'm looking at that like if you're not showing the level of performance of a WWE superstar, then yeah, if you don't pick it up, something as simple as a punch, should you be there? Shouldn't you learn how to, you're at the, but then again, on the other coin, don't tell me to sit there and learn on a house show when I got a 300-mile drive. I'm here and I am taking it seriously. Do you see how they live that they like really contradictory lifestyle with that? But then again, the other part of it is, yeah, what you don't want people to play video games. You want them to go back to the old days of just, you know, drinking and taking pills and like passed out on the floor. What do you want? You want everybody to play poker?
Mm. What do you think as far as CM Punk wants people to work less? Because I know you kind of twisted your face when you heard that initially, but I kind of thought that aren't most people advocating to work more because there seems to be so few wrestling opportunities in WWE these days.
That is where I kind of twist my face because I'm like, this is the most confusing time and the most confusing element about WWE right now. What's the sweet spot? Because by working a lot, guess what? Your body's going to break down. You're going to get hurt. It's inevitable. But back then, when you got hurt, you learned how to work. That was the basis that forced you to work around a real injury and see what you can and cannot do. I don't advocate for anybody getting hurt. The schedule recently, or even for the past few years, has never been lighter. Am I off base with that? And the injuries seem to have ramped up. It's basically a TV PLE product.
Yeah, it's pretty much it. I mean, there has been a considerable, well, comparatively considerable domestic house show loop this summer. There'll probably be one this winter around Christmas time as well. I think it was actually less last year, but not by much.
But also, what they've done a lot, they filled in those domestic house shows with international tours and international TVs and pay per views, right?
Yeah, I don't. Well, yeah, definitely the PLEs as well. But yeah, there have been a lot of international house show tours. There's like 3 or 4 a year, it seems to be at this point. But I don't know. I thought more house shows. Even Cody Rhodes is advocating for more house shows, not just for himself, but for the more inexperienced talent that really might even need to get used to just working in front of bigger crowds before they even made it onto TV. Like that kind of like that stopgap between NXT and main roster.
Yeah, you need to, what the formula used to be, you were working house shows, dark matches. You wouldn't even be seen on TV. Dark matches would be the closest you would sniff to a TV taping or live TV in the arena. But you were on house shows as you were filming your vignettes to get ready and nailing down the character, and they were telling you what to do and what not to do. Here's what's the one thing I hope they're teaching the young talent, inexperienced or gung ho and wanting to do well and get the hug and the handshake and the picture. The house shows are not to be performed with the intensity of TVs or pay per views. If they're going to do the same matches on house shows and go 15, 20, 25 at the pace, they're going to burn themselves out and they're definitely going to get hurt. In other words, this is the time to have fun with the crowd. Yay, boo spots. A little bit of comedy is where Danhausen's going to be the MVP of house shows. You're going to take bumps, but you're going to work. You're going to chain wrestle. You're going to learn. Don't throw a punch in the first 3 to 4 matches or even the first half of the show until intermission. Do you see what I mean? You can't wrestle the same style that you're wrestling. You're going to just be done in a hurry if you do that. Or if you're super durable Iron Man, then you're Kurt Angle. Congratulations.
Before we shut down the show, I thought we'd throw out one more fun fact. So, Big Show, Paul White, he was on TFI Friday a few days ago, and he revealed his fast food orders from back when he was in his 20s. And let's go for the McDonald's one first. 2 Big Macs. He doesn't say whether he supersized these things or not, but anyway, 2 Big Macs, 20 McNuggets, 3 sets of fries, a drink, a milkshake, and an apple pie. And I was just thinking, man, those are rookie numbers, man. I could put that away.
I was going to say, that's a $150 meal today with inflation and everything. You're better off going to a sit-down restaurant.
From Taco Bell, Paul White would get 2 10-packs of tacos. At White Castle, he would eat 40 sliders. White estimated that his probable eating calorie intake was around 12 to 13,000 per day in his 20s. And as a health nut, as a health freak, as someone who's destroyed their adrenal glands with all those bloody protein drinks, whatever else you had, what's your reaction to this? Hungry Big Show.
Actually, it sounds delicious. This segment sounds delicious. So I'm hungry now. And I know you are. You haven't had breakfast yet. If you took a 0 over the calorie intake, that would be my carb depleted, like isopure, teeth aching, diet while I was on TV. What do I think about this? Wow. Today, that would be super expensive. It was back then. But Paul, 7'4", this is in his 20s. So is this WCW in the WWE or just WWE?
I'm suspecting, well, because he started putting on considerable weight. He wasn't 7'4". I thought it was like 7'1" legit. Or what are we thinking?
I thought he was right up there with Andre.
Andre, that was his fake height, was 7'4". I think what people think with Andre was a shade under 7 foot, maybe. And I think Big Show's maybe an inch above, so maybe 7.
But Elegante was definitely up there in the mid 7s.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, he was a basketball player as well.
He was labeled 7'7", right? 7'7".
I think so, yeah.
So
yeah, I don't think Big Show was ever 7'4", though.
Well, you got me, brother. Worked me.
I was going to say, big enough, isn't he?
I was about to say, he's mad enough at me about the No Mercy game, but here we are again. Please don't get mad at me, Paul. There's your disclaimer down there. Please don't get mad at me, Paul. Right there. That's a lot of food, man. But I'm telling you right now, it's not, like you said, the McDonald's one or the Taco Bell. I put away 2 10-packs in my life at one point or another. I know you don't know that. 40 sliders sounds super disgusting. From White Castle, the McDonald's, I think the McDonald's is like a Tommy Dreamer appetizer.
I think it's the McDonald's thing. Have you ever been full from a McDonald's in your life?
No, I got a better question for you. And this scared me. And I was already scared to eat McDonald's. Somebody put up a YouTube short and there was a guy speaking. I don't know why he was speaking to a ballroom or whatever. And he was trying to calculate how many burgers McDonald's sold and how many cows it would take to make that many burgers. And the numbers didn't line up at all.
Are we saying they're packing those burgers with filler of some kind? Sausage meat?
Some kind. But yeah, I'm not saying Paul's like, eating somebody's, well, he was eating the filler. So sorry, Paul, but I thought about that and I was like, whoa, that was good. Not only because the burgers are actually cheaper than Chili's, where you can get the 3 for me deal. But yeah, that scared me off forever from that. So, but I'll tell you this story real quick, because my wife, she believes it because we go to sushi buffets sometimes. There was a New Orleans house show in the afternoon and we had a flight to catch, but then we had like a 3-hour window because the house show ended early. And there was a buffet that had sushi, and I just started to really like sushi. And Tommy was there, and he goes, "Hey, wacko, bet you can't eat as much sushi as me." And I'm like, well, I don't think so, but I really like sushi, and I'm really hungry. And they were like, well, let's see who can eat the most amount of sushi in like an hour or something. I ate 100 pieces of sushi, which I thought I'm going to die, like right here. Tommy ate 120 and then turned to my plate and took my plate, which wasn't finished. So that's what I'm saying. This McDonald's thing, Tommy's like, Big Show, what are you going to do? What are you going to eat after that? Yeah. Tommy would eat a whole gallon of ice cream and put Oreos in the ice cream. He's the man. You asked who had the ridiculous appetite. That's one of the questions. Tommy, number one. And then don't you dare, don't you dare back in the day, even ride with Test. He would ask me all the time, "Hey, Wacko, hey, you want to ride with me, Jobber?" He called everybody Jobber, but me, it was accurate. And I was like, "No way," because he would stop every 15 minutes or so to get food. So he probably ate more in a day than Big Show did.
Who was proper psycho about their diet, specifically on the roads? Like, I can't, eat at 98% of the places. Aside from you, I know you were pretty. Obviously, you want to remain lean and everything, so you're pretty money saving as well as everything else.
Yeah,
About
I
what you put
wasn't.
in
I
your
mean,
body.
Vince's office wasn't off bounds though, or out of bounds.
Yeah. Oh, of course not. He used to steal all the energy bars or whatever from
No, no,
Vince's
no, no.
office.
They were protein bars, and then there was a
Protein
couple
bars,
of
I'm sorry.
filet mignons. Again, I'm still a little bit indoctrinated. Have the Stockholm syndrome. Like, oh my god, I'm gonna get in trouble with Vince. I got to eat, brother. Whatever. It's not urban legend. I get that question, by the way, by a lot of people. You and Tommy really didn't steal Vince's Detour bars. It's in, it's actually in the BWO Takeover special of ECW Unreleased Volume 3, where I pick up the phone in the control room and I go, "Can you send down a case of Vince's protein bars?" Which infuriated a couple people because they reminded them that I got them, brother. But you were asking a question. I completely forgot. I did my
Oh, yeah, yeah. He was psycho over their diet.
Bob Holly. Absolutely psycho to the point he would eat at Bob Evans, eat breakfast to basically go and have a very heavy lifting session. Him and Steve Blackman were very strict about their diets.
Bob Evans. I don't know what the
Bob
term
Evans
is.
is
Is that
like a breakfast place, so they had pretty healthy breakfast food at the time.
okay?
Uh, you know, who's really like two guys that I seen were really well. One you could believe, but Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit are very very tight about their diets at times. Benoit used to actually take the Bioplex package, you know what I mean? Like where you rip it open and had the packets of protein. They didn't sell it in the gym. It was just like basically 24 packets and you put it in your gym bag or whatever. He would pour water into that and then take a spoon and eat the protein powder like a really, really terrible serving of pudding. He's like, "Oh, it tastes like pudding." And I'm like, "Doesn't look like it, doesn't smell like it." And, and I was psycho and I was still like, no, about that stuff. Bob later on, when he was in Wildcat with me, Wildcat Wrestling, he went carnivore for a while. And that was actually he was educating me a little bit about the carnivore diet. And it was nothing but meat, no carbs at all. So he's always been, Bob would probably be the number one guy. You know what? I'm sure Triple H, he was so into bodybuilding, he had to really embraced the bodybuilder diet. And when he lost his physique, it was all due to injury, not from lack of effort or really being dialed into that. Vince too.
Did you see anyone eat spoonfuls of Morphoplex?
No, no, well, unfortunately. And if you don't eat Morphoplex, go to Patreon. You know where you're going to end up. My favorite is still this: Vince McMahon will be on the mat. Chewing that water, baby. Chewing that
Mm.
water. Love it.
Last thing, of all the places you traveled over the many, many years when you were on the road, what was the best place to buy an enormous amount of food? Like, because I imagine a lot of people, I mean, definitely in the territory days, they go to a buffet and only have one meal. It'd all be the all you can eat buffet kind of thing. Where was the best place to have good or at least edible food for a very cheap price and you could just load up on it?
Well, back in the day when I was completely broke and homeless, like here and there, I would go to the Wendy's buffet and I would bring a Ziploc bag and have a meal for later, much like the catering thing and take it for later. You had to do what you had to do at that time outside of like tuna and rice and all that stuff. But I would say probably sushi buffets, Japanese buffets, Chinese buffets were some of the ways where you can get healthy, but a great deal of food with that, because people are like, "My God, a Chinese buffet or sushi buffet." Back then, especially here in Florida, you can get a sushi buffet at lunch for like back then for like $7. I mean, inflation, I would make it like 10 or 12, but to eat, I mean, I'm talking about not grocery store sushi. I'm talking about proper sushi in a proper sushi chef that's making it. Oh yeah. But those days are gone.
Was there anybody who could just, obviously not Tommy Dreamer, but was there anybody who could just pack on tons and tons of food and never gain weight?
That's an interesting
Or,
question. It was me at one
or,
point. Me at one point could do that.
or like Don Morocco, or as you say, Jimmy Snuka, didn't even ever work out that much. He just looked amazing for ages, you know?
Oh, wow.
Like
Really?
some people have just got that body. You know, was there anybody who always just like kept the physique and could just eat any old crap?
The urban legend, the rumor had it that Brickhouse Brown could eat anything he wanted, never work out, and he was completely shredded. I think there was a time where Ron Killings just naturally like looked shredded, because I remember when he was with the company and I was there early on. This is when he was with Road Dogg, and then a little bit after that. I don't remember seeing him at the gym. I see him eat a lot of junk food, and I remember one time I was like, dude, how do you burn that off? Do you work out, or what's your workout like? And he was just like, I was like, oh, that's your workout? Okay. Nice, super nice guy. You know what? A really, really awesome natural physique, and he worked out, but hardly ever worked out on the road. And this is him telling me that, was Batista. Like, his rest days were the 3 to 4 days on the road. He might do a little something or stretch or, you know, do a little lightweight or cardio, but most of his workouts were at home. And it was just like, I got to stop working out.
We're going to end it there, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. This may well have been the longest episode we've ever done. It's got to be over 3 hours, I know that, and I'm starving hungry for lunch. So everybody, thank you so much for watching. That was the worst
topic for the end of the show, wasn't it?
I know. I'm howling for food now, man. We're a new episode out every single Thursday, new clips out on the YouTube every single day, and over to Stevie to take out the show, and thank all the fans, especially the Patreon supporters.
I'm going to make it quick because my stomach's rumbling out too. I actually do somehow want McDonald's. It's very addictive, I guess, but I won't have that. So thank you so much for everybody for watching maybe our record-breaking episode here, episode 106, as far as length. We appreciate you. Please remember to subscribe, and also click the subscribe, click the bell to get notified. The hunger is getting to me. Leave a comment below. I want to thank everybody on Patreon, patreon.com/Stevie Richards. Watch-alongs, pre-show, show notes, all that great stuff. 9 a.m. Monday for the watch-along, Tuesday for the show notes, Thursday for the show before the show, the pre-show, and big shock, updated behind-the-scenes tour coming soon, how we create content for the Stevie Rich. I know, never been done before, first ever, whatever. But thank you so much for watching this show. I have to call Jeff Jarrett now, and hopefully we will become cardio enemies once again. Aha!